Well. The Xbox 2 is back. It's been a while. We've had guests last week, but the one and only Jez Corden is finally back from his vacation in Iceland. And wouldn't you know it, he should go on vacation more because everything seems to happen when Jez is out of town. So we have a lot to talk about. But first off, if you guys are new here, hi, I'm Randall Thor 19, the man with 100K.
100K?
100K,
oh,
yeah.
Snap!
No longer with the man with the million. We're the man with the 100K, right?
If I had a soundboard, this is where I put some... Actually, I do have a soundboard. One sec.
Whoa, we got a soundboard now?
Did that work?
I mean, I heard it. I'm assuming people heard it in chat, yeah.
Maybe that's Discord soundboard. Discord has built one in. This is crazy. That's gonna be annoying very quickly. This is funny though, because like I can see the soundboards from other servers as well. So I made a bunch of World of Warcraft servers, so I've got.
Nobody wants no. No, but no. We don't need any World of Warcraft soundboarding stuff in this show.
Points in the chat if you know what that was from. But yeah, we'll keep the soundboards on the show to a minimum. But yes, I'm back and I've slept and I've been traveling relentlessly for the last couple of days. This was actually like a double-barreled trip because my flight was so late. I slept a night in Frankfurt in the hotel, and then trains today. Train coming back home was cancelled, which is great. Thanks, Germany, with your amazing train services that the country has here. But we made it, and then I got home and went straight to bed, and then slept up because I really did not want to miss the show because we got a lot to talk about. But also, Rand, more importantly, you've got to tell me everything that happened because I've been away, bro. I've been away. I don't know what's happened. I don't know anything.
Yeah. Well, you got to introduce yourself. So for those that don't know, Jez Corden, managing editor, Windows Central, is here, and he is. I mean, there's so much that's happened since you went on. Tell people why you even chose that time frame, because you were telling me to go on vacation because you were like, nothing's going to be going on. Starfield is dying down. News beat. This is a perfect time to go on vacation. And lo and behold, literally everything happens.
Yeah, so this was hilarious. I actually meticulously planned to go on vacation at the end of September to avoid this situation. I just want to give a shout out to Mikey Barra, who's in the chat. Shout out to Mikey Barra, the CEO of Blizzard himself.
CEO? Mike CEO?
President? Well, he can be the CEO, whatever.
Maybe he will be.
He's the head honcho. He might as well be the CEO. We call him the CEO of Blizzard. But anyway, I actually meticulously planned to go to Iceland at the end of September, Rand, because I thought, okay, the Gamescom news beat will be over. Starfield will be out and that'll be done and dusted. And there won't be that much. My team's got Forza handled. TGS will be handled. There probably won't be any major announcements from TGS. And I don't think there were any particularly huge announcements from TGS. But dude, I'm like every now and then I flick open Twitter like when like I'm on the bus or something's happening in Iceland. And I'm just waiting. I flick open Twitter, and every time I open it, something new's happened, like some kind of explosive announcement, some kind of crazy leak, some company suiciding like Unity, and all this crazy shit, layoffs left, right, and center, and I just can't believe it. Like, why did everything decide to happen in specifically the last 2 weeks? And watch it now. After this week, there'll be nothing. There'll be no news. No.
Next week, the CMA's got to decide. October 6th.
Ooh.
That's Friday next week. So we could have one of those episodes where we start and it's like, oh, well, the CMA has approved the Xbox Activision deal. I mean, they're supposed to decide
it.
No, they preliminary approved it, but I'm just saying
they might still deny it.
Whatever.
Rand.
I mean, of course. I mean, hell, even today, you got them Las Vegas police arresting a suspect in the 27-year-old murder
Murder case.
Yeah, the murder, the murder case in Tupac
case.
Shakur, 27 years ago. They finally made an arrest today. It's like, what is going on?
Oh man, the news cycle is just crazy, but that's what the show's going to be about. Is the recent news cycle, and I suppose getting into some of the
there's
more controversial
stuff.
topics from last week, and there's stuff from this week, stuff from next week, and all that kind of crazy stuff. But we've got some housekeeping.
Also, yeah, I want to thank everybody. I'm sure people have realized, have seen that I hit 100K finally on YouTube, something that I never planned for.
Damn.
I started YouTube back in 2016, and I didn't really have any goals with it. It was just something I did. I didn't have any plans to do YouTube. It wasn't like I'm going to set forth and, be Xbox content creator and whatever. It was just, I remember talking to our buddy, the one and only Tim Dog, who, I love dearly. I was talking to him the other day, and Tim kept on pushing me to do YouTube, and I'm like, I don't know if I want to. So I eventually made, the channel, and I started making content on here. And I couldn't foresee, essentially 7 years later, like pretty much exactly 7 years later, that, be sitting here hitting 100,000, essentially potentially getting that check mark and that plaque from YouTube, having a very successful podcast with you that we started a year later. I started my YouTube channel in 2016. We started Xbox 2 in 2017. 6 years later, here we are, episode 285 or 286, depending on who you believe, either me or Jez. I didn't plan for any of this, but it's only possible through all your guys' support. Everybody that watches the videos, everybody that comments, everybody that likes. And I know, yes, I saw the comments, where's the cameras? Because I did say hit 100K, we'll do camera. And even Jez said that when we joined. But the thing about that is I'm not lying when I say I don't own one. But see, the thing is, I want to do it right. So not only do I have to buy a really good camera or a better camera, a nice camera, I got to get lighting. I have to get probably a green screen because I'm not sure if I have a really good backdrop, so I'm gonna have to get a green screen. I'm also looking to buy a brand new computer. So there's a lot of stuff that goes into, the cam thing instead of just being hey, I'm gonna get some shitty webcam with no lighting and we're gonna do the show. No. If we're gonna do that, if we're gonna be on camera, I'm not saying we're gonna be on camera for every single show because I don't know how that would, we might not. I may not like it. There's something nice about not having to be on camera and just talking to people and Jez, rather than spending X amount of time under bright lights and everything. Yep. So
it is nice. It is nice to podcast naked.
Yeah, because you know what? If we do, Jez can't play video games on the podcast anymore. He's gonna have to switch around. Well, I'm just saying. So there's some things you got to do. So it's I gotta buy a whole bunch of stuff, and it's because if we're gonna do it right. So
yeah, let's do it.
But
we'll do it. We'll get on that.
We give you 2 weeks. No, it'll definitely be longer than 2 weeks because I am also buying a new PC. I got to buy a new microphone because the current microphone I have sort of covers my face, and that's kind of something you need not to have when you're on camera. So I got to buy a new microphone. So there's a whole bunch of stuff that goes with it, and I got to spend a whole bunch of money. So it's definitely happening. It's just it'll be some time because I got to get a whole bunch of stuff. Yeah. Zach says the first green screen background needs to be a scale bound. Always scale bound. Always comes up. So 100K. I doubt we'll get 200 or 250 or whatever. But hey, it really feels good. I don't know. I really don't know what else to say about it. Is I never had it as a goal. And then all of a sudden it was obtainable. It was I think all of a sudden I ended up getting to 60, 70,000 at one point. I'm like, you know what? I think 100K might be actually doable. And then, you put out the content, we do the podcasts. And here we are, 7 years later, 100,000, and I couldn't be happier. YouTube has changed my life, and I even know, like, Jez, you were saying the podcast is a really good bright spot for you as well. I look forward to doing it every week. I know you look forward to doing it every week.
Well,
sometimes
it's the center of my content creation now. Like this has become like more lucrative even than game journalism or whatever. So I often think about this is I see how well you're doing and stuff, and I constantly think about, man, this is more what I want to do, man. The YouTube thing, and I see some journalists sneaking across and making that leap to YouTube and stuff.
Yeah, like Destin Legary.
The community, yeah, but the community we built up here is just it's such a bright spot. You guys are all awesome, and it's really cool to it's cool to have a break sometimes, from the rat race and stuff like that. But it feels so nice to come home to you guys, and that's why, like, I didn't want to skip today, even if I was like traveling and whatever. I wanted to make sure I rested up and we could rock out.
Well, okay, I want to know before.
Party peeps.
Yeah, I know we have to do some ad reads and we have to do shout outs, but realistic. I want to know one thing before we start. What were you thinking with your girlfriend? Which, by the way, did you ask her the big question?
Man, you really put me on the spot with that. Like, it was never the plan.
Okay, I was
ask her there.
I mean, when you go to Iceland with your girlfriend and you've been with her I just thought, that'd be a perfect, at night with the Aurora Borealis, you're looking up with that green, the amazing green streaks in the sky, and you just turn to her and say, "Hey, baby, will you marry me?" It's like the perfect opportunity. How could you do better than that?
You don't know, man. We've got special places, like where we first met, north of Germany, on the beach and stuff like that. I got plans. Leave it with me. But Iceland was incredible. It was mind blowing. It's like another world. It's like an alien landscape. Like there's no trees. It's all volcanic. Lava fields and stuff like that.
Hey, baby.
Mikey Barra's in the chat, and we've invited Mikey Barra to come on Xbox 2's guest show, and Mike said he's down. So looks like we've got a guest for October in Mikey Barra. Mike, of course, runs Blizzard Entertainment, and it's a big month for Mike coming up because we got BlizzCon. People want to hear about the next Diablo update, the next WoW update, the next what's in store for Overwatch and beyond. So that could be a really cool show. I'll reach out to you, Mike, after the show for the deets. But yeah, Iceland was incredible, man. It was kind of like I actually said to Mike on Twitter, I said I'm at Northrend IRL right now. So for World of Warcraft players, Northrend is like the North Pole, and it's just like, it's not like anywhere I've ever been. Like it's so the wind is so aggressive that like there's like the soil gets blown away and there's no trees and it's all rock, and it feels almost like, bro, like I'm on like an alien planet right now. And the more I was posting pictures on Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it these days of the last week, and people kept bringing up in the chat. In the comments, they kept bringing up the fact that it looks like Death Stranding.
Mm-hmm.
Like some of my photographs looked like Death Stranding, and I was like, "Oh, wait, you're right. It does look like Death Stranding." And apparently, they actually used Iceland mega scans for Death Stranding, and not, even though the game's set in America, it's actually Iceland. The landscape, the sort of volcanic rock, and even the moss and stuff, the greenery, because there's all this moss, man. There's just moss everywhere, like on the volcanic rocks. It's just gorgeous, man. I absolutely loved it. But glad to get back. We got a lot to talk about.
We did.
And check out my pictures on Instagram at Jez Courtney, if you guys want to see.
Fizz Payne says, "Why aren't you guys on camera? It's 100K subs, and you guys aren't on camera." I just explained that. So scroll back like 5 minutes, and you'll hear it. I have to buy one, have to buy lighting, have to buy green screen, have to buy a whole bunch of stuff. So it'll happen. Don't worry. I'm not lying. I never said it would happen immediately. I don't know where that came from, but Xbox
we'll
2 on
it.
camera.
We want to do it properly.
Will happen at some point. Just I got to spend a whole shit ton of money before then, unfortunately. So, anyways, Jez, I think it's time. We have a wonderful sponsor for the podcast as usual, right?
We do indeed. And Rand, once again, we are sponsored by the immortal Manscaped. Don't be caught. Don't be caught with your hairy privates uploaded by mistake to the FTC. Make sure they look trim and proper first with Manscaped. Manscaped has taken a step up from Halloween. Halloween? Yeah, new ad read. It's Halloween coming up, right? So we're doing Halloween for Manscaped this month. Manscaped has taken a step up from Halloween to bring your face the cleanest shave it's ever seen. So this season, no need to toil and trouble. Manscaped's all-new Handyman is the best way to get rid of that stubble. Featuring a compact design and next-gen skin-safe technology, the Handyman was designed to give you that smooth finish without the mess of a traditional shave. I've actually been using the Handyman, Rand. I actually took all my Manscaped great beard products with me to Iceland. The Handyman's it's like a little compact razor for doing your neck, right? Basically to get rid of that neck beard. Last thing you want is neckage when you've got a huge gamer beard. You want to at least look a little bit trimmed and stuff like that. So the Handyman is specifically for that. Or if you've got or if you're clean shaven, just rock the Handyman, to keep the stubble at bay. But it's really, really cool, super compact, and I really, really love it. But for wet and dry use, feel free to bring this everywhere and anywhere. It's also waterproof, which is ideal for Iceland because there's a lot of rain. The compact design and airplane friendliness makes this the perfect travel tool for on the go. And being able to shave up to 3 days growth without the mess of a wet shave is priceless. And for my wolf men with a little more scruff, or my Worgen, for the World of Warcraft listeners, Manscaped's Beard Hedger Pro Kit has everything you need to tame your mane. This cordless trimmer has a rotary reel that gives you 20 hair cutting lengths, all with one guard. So no more drawers full of extra add-ons collecting cobwebs. That's my bit. I actually do use that too. And if you
you're off your game. You're off your game on this one, Jez. You're off your game.
I am a bit. I'm still a bit. I'm still waking up. I need my caffeine. But seriously though, I do have the Beard Hedger Pro. And if you look on Instagram at Jez Corden, there's a picture of my beard, nice and trimmed with the Beard Hedger Pro. And I used to go to a barber to get it trimmed at the sides, to keep it looking even and neat and stuff like that. But I don't need to now because I got the Beard Hedger Pro, which is absolutely awesome. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the ad read. I'm gonna stop it there. Get the sweetest treat this Halloween by going to manscaped.com and use the code XB2 for 20% off plus free shipping worldwide. And I'm going to drop a little link in the chat here for Manscaped. Their beard products are actually genuinely awesome, even though my ad read was a bit off this week. But the beard stuff is really, really impressed me. Like, the ball stuff is great, of course. Manscaped's all about your balls, but also the beard stuff is actually really good. So if there's anyone in here who does rock a beard, Manscaped's pretty much got the whole kit to keep that trim proper. But thanks to Manscaped again for sponsoring the show. And also, we've got some Patreon shout-outs, I believe, Rand.
Yes. So Patreon, I know this past month, September, this month was kind of light on Patreon content. It's kind of, we were planning on having Maddie, and Maddie was just too busy to do the show. Plus, Jez was on vacation for 2 weeks. So it was kind of very difficult to do something. We're going to make it up to everybody in October because we're going to have an Xbox Ultimate on Tuesday. And then I'm going to try to get Maddie on for early October. And then yeah, so we'll try to have another guest for later in October. So
Mike Ibarra.
Yeah,
come on, bro.
Mike Ibarra. I mean, will he be allowed to? If the deal goes through, can Mike just do what he wants, or is he gonna? I don't know how that.
Screw it, man. We need to get Mike on before the Xbox, the Microsoft PR dudes.
Yeah, but even when Microsoft was at Xbox, Mike did what he wanted, bro. PR,
Mike's a renegade.
PR. I don't need to listen to PR. I do what I want.
I do what I want.
Because I think he literally joined Xbox 2 when we were live one time, and I'm pretty sure he didn't have to clear that through PR. He's like, I'll just do what I want. True.
Mike's a maverick. He's a maverick, bro.
Anyways, we have some shout outs here for the wonderful people at Patreon. Peter B, Saucy Mods, James Wiseau, Tricks Are for Trey, The Grandest of Bip, Chris Parnese, Devkra, Hey Blinken, Battered Haddock, Army Dude 52C, Ryan Kipple, For an Object, Mythic Marty, Moronic Donkey 99, Mockazilla, Randathor 19, Silas, Eric Gregory, Elijah Vasquez, James Moore, Fantasticals, Halo is the franchise player, K-Trox, Bright Tundra 1, 91 Thor L. Rand, Justin Duel, Frank Mariano, PB Broking, Asa T and Madison, Untidy Tim, Grizzy Mofoji, Governor Grimm, DZ Huffin, Walgerman Achievement, The Scarecrow 121, Darren Trophy, Prof JJJ, Butterball 8, Ghostface Killer, and Wolf King KPZ. Thank you guys for supporting us and what we do, because we love doing this show. It's sometimes you're like, oh man, I really want to do it, but then it's like you get in here and you see everybody in chat and you're just talking with your buddy Jez, and it makes everything better. So patreon.com/XB2, and we'll we got a whole bunch of stuff coming in the future, and we're probably even debut the on-cam stuff first for Patreon people when eventually that all happens. So
yeah, we'll need to test it up and all that kind of stuff. You should buy one of those. One thing I've been considering buying for webcam is that those Sony webcams. Well, they're not webcams. They're proper cameras, but they're like designed for webcamming, vlogging, and all that kind of stuff. I'll send it you afterwards, man.
Yeah, I know. I know Colt has been trying to get me to buy
one or something.
Colt's been trying to get me to buy his thing that he uses, but then I really like Gaz's camera. But I think Gaz is using some like $500 Sony camera, and Colt's like, don't spend that much. Just get like this Logitech. I think it's like a Logitech 4K webcam or something. So. There's a lot of options to choose from. And someone was like, you guys should have been prepared for this. It's like, I didn't know I was going to hit 100K. I could have stopped. I wasn't, you never know. You never know with YouTube. It's always peaks and valleys. Sometimes you grow, sometimes you don't. Sometimes things are slow. Sometimes things are really, really, kicking. You never know. And I wasn't going to count my chickens until they hatch. I'm not that type of person. Unless, of course, I make a bet with Jez. And then Jez loses, which I still have to pay you for that bet. You won. I think I owe you $10 for about Starfield and its concurrent numbers on Steam. I lost that bet pretty badly.
Yeah, you did.
I lost that bet didn't you, bro? Pretty badly.
Yes, you did.
Yeah.
Well, that's what you get for betting against me, bro. I'm always right. We've established this. I said the deal will go through, and it is. So
yeah, sure. So let me get through some of these super chats. Thank you guys for all the support. Really means a lot. We have Chaos Might saying, congrats on the 100K subs. Thank you. BT Maverick says, congrats on the 100K subs. Jez goes on vacation and everything goes to hell. And back with the craziest 2-week news cycle I've ever seen. But again, thank you guys for everything. Appreciate what you guys do. Thank you. Evangelo says, Catamaran here. Please remind me of something. Did Rand promise to both go live using a camera after 100K subs, completely naked, only wearing one sock? Yeah, I would quickly lose 100K subs if I did something like that. Nobody wants to see that.
That might be for the Xbox 2 OnlyFans.
Yeah. Joshua B says, welcome back, Jazz. Now that Sony's taken Kotor to farm up north, does Uncle Phil take an Xbox Classic back to its rightful original homeland?
I think Knights of the Old Republic was never happening, personally. Because I think when that was first announced, a lot of people who are familiar with the dev are kind of like, man, these guys seem like they're biting off a little bit more than they can chew. And really, it does seem like it's boiling down to that. I don't think that game is ever going to come out from that dev in the way that KOTOR fans frankly deserve. If anyone should do KOTOR, it's probably BioWare. You know, honestly.
Really? BioWare? I mean, the BioWare that has... Okay, Jez. The BioWare right now? Are you serious?
Are we... Okay, I'll rephrase that. The BioWare who... assuming that the next Dragon Age is actually good and the next Mass Effect is actually good.
And do you think the next Dragon Age is... Hold on. Do you think the next Dragon Age is going to be good considering they're laying off like 50 people and all these writers and stuff? Come on. That is not a sign of confidence. That is not a sign of confidence in the game whatsoever. No.
Come on,
I'm telling you right now, you are going to be crying into your cornflakes when you get Dragon Age.
Cornflakes?
Whatever you eat, whatever your morning cereal is or your morning breakfast, you are going to be crying into your cornflakes when you get that copy from EA, from BioWare, Dragon Age Dreadlock, or whatever the hell it's called. What's
Dreadlock?
Dreadlock. What's the name of the game? Dreadlock? Dreadwolf? Whatever.
Dreadwolf.
Okay. When that game comes out, and he's like, this is the return of BioWare. Come on. After Andromeda and after Anthem were complete disasters, you're gonna play that game, and you're gonna just be like, this isn't it. Especially after Baldur's Gate 3. And you know what? I wouldn't be surprised if they get shut down after Dreadwolf. I mean, I hate to say it because there's layoffs in the industry and it sucks, especially when you have companies making all these ridiculous profits and CEOs taking all these bonuses and then suddenly like, well, we got to cut some people. I really don't have faith in the current BioWare and EA's EA. EA's going to do what EA does. I just don't really think Dreadwolf is going to do anything. I don't think people are going to care. And granted, I want it to be good because I want Mass Effect. I want the next Mass Effect. But at the same time, I don't think it's going to be any good. And I wouldn't be surprised if after that, they're just make the studio redundant. So I don't know. I don't know. I'm sorry.
That is negative. That's negative even by my standards, man.
It is what it is, bro. I mean, there's nothing.
It is what it is. Negative Rand.
Maybe it'd be a different story if I felt like EA believed in BioWare and the new Dragon Age game, but it looks like they don't. So why should I?
Damn.
You know what I mean?
Damn, bro. Well, dude, like, according to you, like, nobody cares how the sausage is made. So
true.
Most people don't even know that they've had layoffs, dude.
That is true. Most people don't, and they're only going to care when the game comes out. And if the game comes out and it's just mediocre and it's just another example of, you know, BioWare used to be one of the greatest studios in existence, and it's a shame to see what they've essentially turned into. So I'm not too keen. I'm not too optimistic about the new Dragon Age. So the fact that you say they should have had KOTOR, I mean, maybe for nostalgia's sake, but even KOTOR, like, let's talk about this, right? Because this was a topic. Talk about KOTOR.
Okay, let's talk about it.
So people started noticing that Sony removed the trailer for KOTOR off of their YouTube channel. Whether they privated it or whether they deleted it. And they even deleted some of the tweets mentioning the game. So people are like, that is kind of weird. Why would you do that? Now, we do know that there was some trouble with the game, that Aspyr was the one making the game, and apparently either Disney didn't like the game or Sony didn't like what the game was looking like, because Sony likes to... We need to have our, cinematic, high-quality experience. Aspyr was a studio that really hadn't made anything of their own. It was, Star Wars ports and things like that nature, ports of stuff. So it was kind of a weird studio to give to anyways. And they're under Embracer. And then and it's like, okay, they essentially were taken off the project and it was given to somebody else. I think it was like Saber or something. And
Saber Interactive,
Yeah, and we've all seen the... problems that Embracer is going through. They shut down Volition. They have a bunch of layoffs at other companies. And now you have this. And it's kind of like, okay, is the game just canceled? Because I did see Steven Totillo mention this on Twitter, saying that he reached out to Disney and asked them what's going on, because Disney's the license holder for the game. And Disney's like, you have to go ask Sony. And when he went to ask Sony, Sony said the trailer was taken down because of licensed music. But if you remember the trailer, the trailer's music in it is just Star Wars music. It is like nothing you would imagine is like licensed that needs to be taken down. Because I believe, if I'm not mistaken, either this game was revealed in 2020 or 2021. I think it was 2021. Maybe it was in the second showcase in 2020, so I'm not sure. So either it's been 3 years or it's been 2 years. It's kind of quickly to remove a trailer for license issues, especially when the game's not out yet. I don't know. To me, this stinks to high heaven that the game's been canceled and that, you're going to remove all traces for it. I don't know what else
I think, I feel like if the game, because this is an exclusive for Sony, right?
Yes.
I feel like if the game hadn't been cancelled, they'd be trying to assuage people's concerns about whether or not it's been cancelled. I think this project was doomed from the get-go. I was skeptical about it instantly when I saw who was developing it. And Knights of the Old Republic has such a powerful legacy behind it.
It does.
Like, hardcore fan base from the Old Republic standpoint, which is a universe in of itself. Like, it's not just like, oh, you've got the Star Wars fan base to worry about. You've got the Old Republic fan base to worry about. The Old Republic still exists. The MMO has continued the story of the Old Republic. And it's canon, the BioWare has continued that on. And although BioWare stepped away from developing the Old Republic now, the MMO, the story that exists within the Old Republic is quite good and quite solid. So there's a whole universe there. And if you are going to remake Knights of the Old Republic, which started the Old Republic as a franchise, and there's even rumors that Disney might make a TV show set in the Old Republic, and they've actually canonized some of the planets from the Old Republic era in some of the modern TV shows, not to get too nerdy with it, but, the Old Republic's a whole thing into itself. So I kind of feel like, man, you want to give this to a AAA kind of dev with the experience to build this kind of experience at the end of the day. And I just think this dev probably ain't it. This has the potential to be like a flagship game that has an established fan base, has a huge amount of nostalgia going into it, and also the Star Wars IP, And I don't think with games like Jedi Survivor, which is and Fallen Order, which is sort of elevated the expectations of what a Star Wars game can possibly aspire to. There's a pun for you. There's a pun for you, Rand.
That's a good one. Oh. Were you waiting to use? Did you see that in the soundboard and just waiting to have an opportunity to use that?
I've been waiting for an opportunity. To use that. Okay, we won't do that again.
No, I mean, if it makes sense, do it. We need to get our voices on here, capture some soundboard clips of us or something, so we can play. Because it's an interactive experience. That was good. That was good.
But anyway, what? Yeah, start. The bar has been raised for Star Wars games in general. Yeah. The bar has been raised. Don't give it to Aspire Media or whatever they're called, or Saber Interactive. Give it to a dev that can really do it justice. And that's not to say those devs are trash or anything, but we have to be sort of realistic about the expectation here. The expectation for Knights of the Old Republic would have been so vast. And not only because it's Star Wars, not only because it's Knights of the Old Republic, but also because it's exclusive. And if this game launched and it was trash, it would have damaged the PlayStation brand, And Sony's sort of they're very, very meticulous at curating this image for quality. And if you're taking a beloved IP and a beloved franchise and sort of trashing it, it could hurt, the Sony brand in some way, at least in their eyes potentially. So, I don't expect we'll see this game ever again. I don't think we'll see it hit the light of day. Not from this team. Certainly not from Embracer Group. I could be wrong. This could be pessimistic of me, but nah.
Embracer Group.
Nah, bro. Nah.
What a disaster Embracer Group has turned into.
It's so weird, man. Because for years, right, I was thinking about Embracer Group, and I was like, man, what is their strategy? There must be some rhyme or reason to buying all these, these sort of mediocre studios that they were buying. They've bought some really great studios, don't get me wrong, but they bought a lot of studios that I wouldn't have thought to be desirable. So I kept thinking to myself, man, they got some grand scheme here. They got some master plan. This is some kind of business acumen that I'm just not familiar with, or some sort of super investment strategy that is just way above my head. Nope. It turns out they were just idiots, unfortunately. And because they're idiots, the people beneath them are going to suffer, and they've had mass layoffs. They're going to studios getting shut down left, right, and center. And it's not even like Microsoft's in a real position to, step in. And like I keep seeing it come across my timeline, Rand, and I'm sure you've seen it as well. People saying like Microsoft should step in and pick up Crystal or IDOS and some of these other teams like to help Embracer divest some of its studios that have yet to really make money. Because they bought Crystal Dynamics and they acquired the projects that they're working on for Microsoft, and presumably there'll be money at the end of that tunnel. But it's also kind of like you've still got to cash flow the wages, and these studios aren't necessarily producing content yet. So they're sort of they're getting royalties from the classic Tomb Raider games or whatever, and it's kind of like this is not. They've got a cash flow problem. Their studios need to be paid, but a lot of their acquisitions have yet to really produce anything, and it just seems like pure hard math fail. They were like, okay, let's buy all these studios, and they'll instantly start making money. It's like, bro, do you even know how games are developed? Do you even know?
Do you even know? Do you know?
Do you know? Embracer didn't know, Rand. They didn't know how the sausage is made because, like you said before, nobody cares. Even Embracer doesn't care how the sausage is made, apparently, because they didn't seem to know that they need to cash flow this shit. And now they're in this situation.
To be fair about the Crystal and Eidos thing, people say that because both those studios are apparently working on Xbox games, although it's never been officially confirmed that Eidos Montreal is helping on Fable. We do know that Crystal Dynamics is, doing Perfect Dark. So when people talk about, hey, please save these two studios, is because they're working on Xbox games. And me and you both believe that if Xbox didn't pursue ABK when ABK became available, that Xbox would have been the one to buy basically Square Enix West, right?
Yes, definitely.
So, yeah, I mean, you did see that there were some layoffs at Crystal Dynamics, and I think that's what kind of sparked this. It's like, please don't, I think Crystal and Eidos are safe because Microsoft's clearly paying for the development of Perfect Dark, Amazon's paying for the development of Tomb Raider, so they're probably safe. They might have had some redundancies or something because they're finally ending like Marvel Avengers. And then Eidos, I don't even know that they haven't even announced a new game from them. I mean, there's some talk that maybe there's a new Deus Ex in development, but apparently one of their teams is working on Fable, and I think Fable's supposed to be a big franchise for Microsoft, clearly. So it's like, if you were to get anybody from Embracer, it would be those. It would be like, yeah, we need to get these teams that help us, because I don't know, man. Like, we talked about it in the previous podcast, like 2 weeks ago. I said, I think we're going to see a lot of studios shut down. I think there's going to be a lot of layoffs across the industry. And it's starting to it's starting to look like that's probably going to be true, unfortunately.
Yes.
But
I mean, I just wanted to throw in there while you were mentioning Fable that they acquired a pretty high profile producer recently. Did you see this?
They did. They acquired let me get the name right, cuz someone DM'd me this. They acquired someone from Baldur's Gate 3 team, Ryan Clark, who was a producer at Larian Studios for 4 years producing Baldur's Gate 3, has joined Playground Games to work on Fable. So,
yes.
I mean,
that's a pretty good producer to land if you're making an RPG.
I mean, hey, yeah, it's like we know everybody loves Baldur's Gate 3, probably going to be the Game of the Year winner. And I think Microsoft has very high expectations for Fable. So you need to hire the right people to make that game as big as it can be. So if you're doing that, yeah, this is somebody you probably should land. So very interested in seeing how Fable all comes together. But as we talk about KOTOR again, quickly. A lot of people were upset that this was a PlayStation exclusive in the first place, that Xbox didn't fight for the exclusivity considering it was an Xbox exclusive. And I just want to make mention that let's imagine a scenario where KOTOR was an Xbox exclusive and all this was happening. Because if KOTOR was canceled, or even went through the development problems that it was going through and was shifted to another dev, people would have blamed this on Xbox and Phil Spencer and Matt Booty. Whereas, they would have said, oh, this is another example of Xbox mismanagement. They don't know what they're doing. They can't run their studios. Their games suck, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. While most people, when they talk about this with PlayStation, PlayStation doesn't get any sort of blame for it. They're, people just say, oh, it wasn't good enough for them or whatever. But I tell you, if this was an Xbox exclusive and it was running these problems, the narrative would be completely different. And you know it to be true, Jez.
Yes,
you 100% know it
you can't say those kind of things, man, because people get upset. And
it's true. Whatever.
I saw it on my Twitter this past week when I was, there was some toy company that Sony reportedly demanded cancel all their orders and stuff, and the toy company went public and they were like, Sony forced us to cancel orders that you guys have already paid for, blah 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 blah. And I sent out an innocent tweet. Imagine if this had been Xbox doing this, the knives would have been out. It was like, oh damn, mean old corporate Microsoft stomping on an indie toy developer. And to be fair, I'm sure Sony has legit reasons for this, but I was just pointing out the hypocrisy, bro.
Mm-hmm.
You can't point out hypocrisy or you're a fanboy, bro. I saw it on Twitter. People say point out hypocrisy, you're a fanboy, bro.
Yeah.
You want to be a fanboy, Rand? A fanboy with 100,000 subs?
I mean,
whatever.
Fanboy
with 1 million?
I guess so. I mean, I saw that you were included in a post on Twitter about, would you believe this person is unbiased for reviews? It was a picture of you, Paris, Destin, and Ryan McCaffrey. It's like, would you believe? And it's like, would you believe these reviewers are? Do you think they're unbiased or whatever? It's like, oh yeah, you picked those guys. Okay.
Why is the guy from South Park?
I don't know, because I want it to be.
But it's really funny because not like an hour after that guy sent that tweet, someone pointed out the fact that website had been plagiarizing other websites and copy and pasting articles instead of producing their own content. Why is it always the idiots, man?
Because they're idiots.
Shit and
that's why. Because they're idiots. That's why.
Yes.
But if you guys are enjoying the show, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe, please. If you're new, hit the like button and subscribe.
No, smash it. You gotta say
smash that like button. Yeah, but
it's the like button.
Would you guys believe? Would you take a look at Jez's picture? Do you believe he can be unbiased? He's never said a bad word about Xbox in his entire career. He's just a fanboy journalist.
Oh man!
You've never said a bad thing about Xbox ever, by the way.
No. I mean, why would I? They're a perfect, flawless company.
Yeah.
It's not like they've done anything really, really annoying recently, like forcing out their hardware chief to Amazon right at the time where they probably need a good hardware chief. Not like Microsoft does stupid things all the time or anything. It's not like they're a perfect, flawless Anyway. But Rand, actually, someone did literally officially say that Microsoft is the best place in the world to work.
I did see something about that on Twitter.
Ranked by Time Magazine as the best place to work in the world, in the entire world. So that proves it that Microsoft's the best, right? That proves it.
I mean,
right?
I guess so.
Right,
I guess I don't know. I'm sure it would be a great place to work.
Yeah, I mean, they do have like McDonald's on premises. I think. I think was it McDonald's?
There's probably.
No, it sounds too unhealthy. It's probably Subway. Subway's healthy, right?
I think
lettuce,
so.
Yeah, I don't know.
Super chat here from your boy Roy says, Rand, congrats on 100K. Thank you. Web Dave also says, congrats, Randall Thor 19 on the way to 1 million. I don't think we'll ever get to 1 million. 100K is more than enough for me. But, we're going to keep on making content, doing the podcast, so I would,
you better get to 1 million, bro.
I wish. Infinite Umbra, my Chicago brother. He says, congrats on 100K Rand and Jez. Thank you. Boss Mod Lethal Papa in the house. What's going on, Lethal? He says, I bet Jim is so happy now that he can play Starfield full time now. Congrats on the 100K Rand. Yeah, Jim's got a lot of time on his hands. He's moving forward here. But thank you, Lethal. God's Hitman says, exclusive Star Wars game for PS5 canceled. Well, we just talked about that. Mythic Marty in the super chat says, congrats on the milestone, Rand. Well deserved. Thank you. Our buddy Sin Vendetta. He says, big congrats on the 100K subs, Rand. Been watching your videos since you started YouTube and been listening to the podcast with Jez since the beginning. It's so awesome to see how far you've come. Long overdue. Thank you. Yeah, I got a lot of messages from people being like, I was there when you only had 1,000 subs. I was there when you had 500. I was there when you had 5,000, you know? I was there when Xbox 2 first started back in 2017, you know?
It's still sinking in for me, like, how much our little community's grown. And I do want to shout out, by the way, Hjorvar from Iceland, who I met up with, who listens to the show.
Really?
In Iceland. Yes.
No way.
And he bought, yes, for real. I met up with an Xbox 2 listener.
So wait, with
Hjorvar in Reykjavik, and he bought me some lovely, lovely gifts.
Really?
One of which is alcohol, which I will be drinking on one of the shows coming up.
There hasn't been Junk Jez on the show leaking stuff in a while.
No, there hasn't. I actually haven't had a drink for a long time, and that's not me trying to be sober or anything. That's just me not having any alcohol to hand. But now I do have some alcohol, so we'll do a drunk podcast one of the days, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Supernova in the super chat says, so we can't say again Jim lying, crying, dance moves, shake Private Ryan after March of 2024. Yeah, that's the sad part about that. This might be the last time we get to mention his honorifics with his name. You know, you will be missed. Lying, crying, flying, Jim, dance moves, saving Private Ryan. Oh, how I will miss saying that every time we talk about Jim. Good old Jim. We believe in generations, Jim. Our business will never recover, Jim. All the amazing things Jim Ryan has said over the years, which, you know, hey, PlayStation has flourished and done incredibly well under his leadership. Although a lot of what he's implemented probably isn't going to be... Well, we'll talk about that when we get there. I know a lot of PlayStation fans were cheering and happy because they don't really like Jim, because Jim has ushered in the era of putting their exclusives on PC, and the PlayStation fans are like spoiled children in the sense that they don't like to share their toys. So remember when I said, hey, I'm hearing Horizon Zero Dawn is going to be on PC, they all attacked me. I was like, enemy number one of the PlayStation community. How dare you, Rand? Sony knows the value of exclusives. They will never put anything on PC. You're just making shit up. Like, I make shit up. You know, like, yeah, I'm just coming out here and saying shit just to say shit, right? Yeah, like all these sort of excuses, like, Sony knows how to run a successful business, Rand. And I'm just like, okay. And look, all their games are coming to PC. Granted, not all of them day and date. You know, I think that'll happen eventually, but they're doing it, and they hate that. They're like little 5-year-old children, and mommy and daddy are telling them to share their toys with the other kids. And like, no, this is mine. This is my toy. This is my God of War. I don't want to share it with anybody. I don't want to give it. No. You know?
Oh, man. Well, Xbox fans reacted the same way.
No, 100%. 100%. When the Xbox, when they announced like Xbox Play Anywhere and going to Steam, so there's Xbox fans had a meltdown too, you know. But like,
gotta keep it balanced. Grew up on the BBC.
100%. People, there are definitely people that did not like that on the Xbox side. You know, Crap Gamer famously was one of them. But yeah, it's just
there's
you
a
know.
lot of people.
But so there's
a lot of. I mean, there's some legitimate reasons to think that, because it's like if you start putting your games on PC,
sure,
you don't need to buy the hardware anymore.
100%.
I'm sure Xbox has endured. I think to some degree, Xbox has endured the brunt of that. But at the same time, you make a hell of a lot of money. make a hell of a lot of money, and Xbox's revenues are better than they've ever been because of their strategy. And as we're going to discuss, a bit later, Phil had some pretty dire words about the business previously if they weren't able to get the revenue up. So we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
Anyway, it is what it is.
We have Spoony Love super chat saying, "Welcome back, Jazz. You've only missed a thing or two." Yeah, we're very happy he's back. Supernova says, "Jazz, what's new from Blizzard? Project Odyssey," and he runs away.
Yeah, I think I better be careful what I say if Mikey Barr is in the chat. But
yeah,
if you're interested in Project Odyssey, you should probably keep an eye on BlizzCon, I would think. And BlizzCon obviously is coming up. It's going to be a big event. It's probably technically going to be might even be a Microsoft event technically by the time it rolls around. But I'm just going to have a quick look when exactly BlizzCon is this year. So when is BlizzCon this year? Oh my god, it's gotten pretty expensive as well. So the base ticket price for BlizzCon is now $300.
Expensive.
But it's but they go all out, man. They have like celebrities there, like Ozzy Osbourne's performed there, and a bunch of other like major bands. So so BlizzCon this year is the 3rd and 4th of November. And there is like going to be a virtual ticket, which is basically like you pay, you get a bunch of in-game items, and you can also watch a bunch of live shows there exclusively. I'll probably be doing it that way. I did consider going, but it's so expensive to fly out to California, and I've just kind of bruised my bank account with Iceland, which, by the way, is the most expensive place I've ever been to in my life. Like Iceland, like just buying anything, like a can of deodorant or a bottle of Coke, and you're just like, damn, my wallet's already empty for the day. But I'll be covering BlizzCon, and I think BlizzCon will be a fun time this year if you're a fan of Blizzard's games. Some of Blizzard's games not been doing that great recently. Diablo fan base is very down on Diablo 4 right now. World of Warcraft fans are waiting for the next season. Overwatch is Overwatch. We all know about that. Hearthstone team had a bunch of layoffs recently. I don't know if you saw that, Rand, but the Hearthstone team got hit pretty hard, which probably says to me that Hearthstone's probably on decline now. With Hearthstone, it's like, what more do you do? How can you keep adding content to a card game? I mean, all you can do really is add more cards, and I think because it's tied to the Warcraft brand, which has also been in decline, it's probably linked to some degree. But still a ton of potential, and I'm pretty excited for what BlizzCon will bring personally. But yeah, we'll be covering that later in November, I guess.
Yeah, the person you met in Iceland just super chatted, and I know I'm gonna say his name wrong. So say his name properly. Hirovar. He super chatted and said, "Hope the chocolate was a hit."
We didn't eat it yet.
Didn't eat the chocolate yet. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
It went into the suitcase, so we will be rocking the chocolate, man. I'm most curious about the alcohol. Man, there was some strange alcohol in Iceland. Sheep dung whiskey brand.
Excuse me? Sheep dung whiskey?
Sheep dung whiskey.
That is a very weirdly worded whiskey.
Yeah, it's a completely.
Say that 5 times fast, by the way, Jez. Say that 5 times fast. Weirdly worded whiskey.
Sheep dung whiskey.
No, say
dung whiskey.
Say what I said. Weirdly worded whiskey. 5 times fast.
Sheep dung whiskey. Weirdly worded whiskey. Weirdly worded whiskey. Yeah, but yeah, sheep dung whiskey. It's very interesting. I was tempted to buy it for science, but I ultimately decided against it. But maybe I can import it. I don't know. But it's very, very, very intriguing. Very intriguing country. It's personality changing. That trip for me was personality changing, I think.
Was it?
Like a canon life moment. Going to Iceland, and I'll probably go back. What I want to do, Rand. I want to get really fit.
Okay.
And do some of the sort of the hiking tours they have, where you walk on the glacier and you take the little hooks and do the Lara Croft thing and climb up. Maybe not to that extent, but there's levels of like of stuff you could do in Iceland. There's like you have a little bus tour and you go to a few places, or you can get really hardcore and like climb up mountains and go on the glacier and risk your life and stuff. They told a story about like 2 hikers who were walking on the glacier and just disappeared.
Yikes.
They just vanished. Like the glacier just swallowed them. So it's a pretty spooky place, you know. Volcanoes everywhere and lava flows. God, it's wild, man. Personality changing. But anyway, let's continue with
we got a
gaming
achievement in the super chat saying, when Spawnwave told his audience to stop what they were doing and go sub to your channel, did you notice a bump in subs? Yeah, I mean, I saw that a few people had subs, so definitely. I appreciate John from Spawnwave and MVG and RGT for those guys basically, you know, telling their audience, being like, hey, go sub to him. Because yesterday, I woke up and I looked at my YouTube studio because I knew I would be close. And it was like 99,994. And I'm like, oh, 6 more. And it was like 8 in the morning. So I'm like, I'm going to go back to bed. And when I wake up next, I'll be past 100K, right? I went back to bed and woke up and I was at 99,899, I think. Or, no, 99,989. And I'm like, oh, I lost a bunch. I lost like 5 subs, 6 people unsubbed or whatever. I'm like, I need 11 subs. And I'm like, I'm going to tweet this out. And maybe if I tweet this out and people see how close I am, maybe someone will go subscribe. And sure enough, as soon as I tweeted it out, like 2 minutes later, I had broken 100,000. So, yeah, I mean, those guys are great. Anybody that, you know, retweeted it and subscribed, it's, you know, it's amazing. Face 23 BKNY, he says, would love to see Peter Moore or Reggie become president of SIE. Yeah, I don't know if they're gonna look beyond Sony internally. Like, a lot of people are saying, hey, why not Herman Hulst? Right? He was promoted, I think when Jim Ryan, he was promoted to head of PlayStation Studios when Jim Ryan kind of took over. And they may go that path. Herman Hulst may get that job and be, you know, CEO of PlayStation, or maybe they go in a different direction. Like, Peter Moore would definitely be a pick. What if they go back, and what if they bring back Sean Layden? Because there was always those reports, always those talks that there was some internal battle between Jim and Sean. And Jim,
they could also look outside the company. They could look to someone like,
well, that's what, you know, Reggie,
Don Matrick.
Oh God, could you imagine? Can you imagine going from Jim Ryan to Don Matrick? I mean, come on.
They could also look at Uni and get Mark Whitten.
Yeah, get John Riccatello. Yeah.
Or they could get, I don't know, the guy who ran Stadia. I can't remember his name.
Oh, we bring back Agent 47, Phil Harrison.
Yeah, Phil Harrison.
Yeah.
But it's funny though, because like people cheering, you know, that he left, and it's kind of like, be careful what you wish for, man. You could get someone like Matrick, and like the interim, I saw some people, and this might not be true. I haven't looked into it much myself. I'm a bit out of the loop, but I saw some people saying like the interim CEO apparently said something like he prefers mobile games to console games or something.
Well, the interim CEO is very much like, you know, very much about growth. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that doesn't necessarily mean whoever. Well, yeah, we'll talk about all that when we get to it, right? Because there's a lot of things to mention, but you never know who they're going to hire. I mean, Herman Hulst, or they could go outside and get somebody different. It's going to be they have a choice to make there.
What if they poach Phil?
Ooh. What if Phil leaves Xbox and goes to run PlayStation? Goes to run PlayStation? Could you imagine? Could you
imagine the meltdown?
Oh my lord.
Meltdown.
That would be, talk about a day, week, month on Twitter if that happened. Oh man.
Well, Mikey Barra.
Mike rejoins Xbox and then leaves to go run PlayStation? Whew.
Yeah, and it becomes like Phil's arch nemesis.
Oh wow.
And it's like a Game of Thrones kind of thing.
We got a villain arc going on. Oh, that would be something.
That'd be spicy.
We got Munster Yoshi saying, hey, Jez, did you propose to your girlfriend? You said your trip was special. Missed you on the show. Sorry, Rand. Last time, missed you reading my super chat. I'm pretty sure I read it because I always go to... Yeah, Jez, about that about that proposal, you know?
Phil's calling you, bro. No, I never planned to propose here, but you know, there'll be other times. There'll be other times.
Other times indeed. We have
No
Latia
rush.
saying, "Congrats! Do you think Xbox should start using Nvidia instead of AMD for the next console?"
No.
Well,
Unless you want the Xbox to cost an extra $1 million.
Well, I mean, I know, I'm sure you've seen it, Jez, but at least according to the documents, Xbox was thinking about switching to ARM.
That, I'm about that. I doubt it.
I mean, it's in there. I mean, I'm not saying that they did, but I'm saying they were thinking about it at least.
I think like with the ARM stuff, maybe that's more for a cloud console, or maybe like a second chip to run the operating system or something. Where I cannot see a scenario where they try and run an entire Xbox off ARM process.
You don't think so?
No, there's just not. They're just not powerful enough, man. I don't know. But hey, maybe the next console will just be a phone or something. That'd be great. I mean,
just the phone.
Yeah, just a phone. It's really interesting because like I saw loads of people on Twitter talking about how, oh my god, Apple can run all these games now. The iPhone is the next video game console, but like the Snapdragon in my Samsung S23 benchmarks higher than the overheating crap they put in the iPhone 15 already. So it's kind of like Apple's done nothing new here. And if it hasn't caught on Android, it's not going to catch on Apple either, because Android has a bigger global footprint. But anyway, there's always flux in the video game industry.
Now,
and,
okay, I'm going to say something. Yeah. And I'm not like, so maybe what I'm saying is wrong, because I'm not a tech guy, and I don't really know how this stuff works, right? But Xbox and PlayStation both use x86, right? They both use AMD, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And
there would have to be some significant work to make backwards compatibility happen.
That's not really my concern. You know me, like, I appreciate backwards compatibility. I don't really need backwards compatibility, right?
You only play trending games.
No, it's not even that. It's not even that. I have a different concern in this regard. If they were going to switch to AMD, if they were going to switch from AMD to ARM, because I look at currently, and there's a Digital Foundry video recently that we're talking about why isn't the Xbox Series X outperforming the PlayStation 5 more often. And they were talking about it, and essentially, you know, they maybe they feel like Microsoft overdesigned it or whatever. It seems that PlayStation is doing better with less and less costly, and they kind of said like, well, maybe the devs, you know, it's like, well, there's 40 million PlayStations and 10 million X Series X's, so who are you going to dev for? And we thought going into this gen, like, oh, when you provide the Series S and the Series X, that, you know, great price disparity of getting all these people coming in at next gen really cheap. And it didn't really turn out that way. And the Series X really hasn't done what Microsoft said it was going to do pre-release. Like, Microsoft was like, we waited for these RDNA 2 features, and we haven't really seen any of them really implemented, let alone even in their own games. So it feels like the developers aren't really getting all they can out of the Series X. And this is in the same dev environment with the x86. So there's a part of me that thinks if PlayStation 6 is going to go with x86 again, because, you know, or AMD again, like, why wouldn't they? There's a part of me that thinks if Microsoft decided to be like, screw that, we're going with ARM, because we already know how developers feel about the Series S, right? They don't like the extra work. And a part of me thinks, like, and this could be completely wrong, and I'm sure people will tell me in chat, because like I said, I'm not a tech guy. If they switch to ARM, would developers be like, oh, fuck? Like,
yes, they would be.
They'd be like, now you're going to have extra work because we can't it's not easy to sort of do the things we've been doing. And I don't know. It would be like, can Xbox afford to make a move like that in the dev community where it'd be completely different than what's currently going on? You know, like, at least with the PS5 and the Xbox, it's like the same, you know, whatever. But now if you're switching, so I don't really know, like, would that cause like a whole bunch of headaches? Potentially? Well, I don't know. Like, that's...
Yeah, I mean, I kind of think it's pointless discussing this, to be honest, because
Okay.
I would bet my left foot that the next Xbox will not be ARM based. I think what this is probably more about is they've got to explore other avenues before they submit a tender. So it's like when I used to work back in the day for IT company, they were like when they were putting in, you know, when they were getting ready to buy, like I worked for an IT company sort of thing that did IT for a bunch of different companies. So like I was sort of, you know, doing IT for high schools and for restaurants and, you know, random small businesses around the local area, right? And one of the things they have to do is be like, okay, well, we want to buy iPads for the school, or we want to buy Chromebooks for the school, or whatever. And it's kind of like, they don't just go out and buy Chromebooks. They don't just go out and buy iPads. They sort of they sort of try to get them to bid against each other. So it's like they'll go to Google and say, okay, well, Google, we're looking to buy these Chromebooks, but this is what Apple has said, and they'll offer us this for this. Can you beat that? So I kind of feel like this is kind of them sort of exploring beyond AMD, almost like doing their due diligence, kind of, to see if there is an option beyond AMD. But I would bet my left leg that it will still be an AMD machine. I cannot see an ARM Xbox personally in this, you know, the landscape. You know, so I think it's pointless to discuss. I think it's going to be AMD, and but maybe there'll be like an ARM co-processor or something like for the operating system. Because one of the things that is really annoying about the Xbox is the limitations of the operating system. Because it's still the Xbox Series X is an Xbox One. You know, the truth be told, it's running the same operating system architecture with it's the Windows 8, for God's sake. It's still a Windows 8 based operating system. And in some of these documents, which I have read, I haven't read all of them. I'm probably not going to read all of them because I hate reading. But some of the ones that I have read, they're talking about something called the Thin OS. Did you see this, Rand? The Thin OS.
Yeah, I didn't know what really to make of it.
So like Microsoft sort of like they're changing the way they view Windows as an operating system. And one of the way, from what I understand from talking to people familiar with the matter, is that there's going to be like Win 1, Win 2, Win 3, and Win 4. And from what I understand, it's like Win 1 is like your full fat business grade BitLocker Windows Professional, and then Win 2 is like Windows Home, where it's like you don't need BitLocker, or you don't get BitLocker, and you don't get some of this encryption, this business grade stuff. And then Win 3 is the Thin OS. It's the lightweight operating system for devices like the Asus ROG Ally, maybe, or the Steam Deck, or these other kind of devices that don't need full blown Windows, you know, or maybe a tablet, or maybe even a phone, you know, it's not the full blown Windows. It's like a stripped down Windows that should be more efficient and whatever. And then you got Windows 4, Win 4, which I presume is like embedded Windows for like your ATMs and your McDonald's screens and stuff like that. So I don't know if you've noticed, Rand, but when you go to McDonald's these days and you order, it's a big ass touchscreen, right? Those are like Windows 8 or maybe even Windows 7 based touchscreens. And like sometimes, like on some of them, you can like swipe in from the left and you can open the start menu on some of those McDonald's ordering screens, or at least you could for a while. They might have fixed that bug now, but some people discovered that if you swipe in from the bottom corner, you can open the start menu. But anyway, that's the sort of the way Windows is going. So if they are sort of building a lightweight Windows operating system, maybe that could run on ARM, and then you give like the AMD portion of the operating system using hypervisor the full access to all the, you know, the full power of the system without compromising what you can do with the operating system. So you can still have the cool things like the Discord streaming, and maybe bring back some of the stuff like picture-in-picture, maybe. Because a lot of people complain about losing picture-in-picture. You know, do you remember back in the day, Snap Mode on the original Xbox?
Yeah, how can I forget Snap Mode?
Yeah. I know you don't care about that stuff, but the reason we don't get those cool features is because, you know, Microsoft's having to use as much resources as possible for gaming. What if there was like a little portion of the operating system that can handle all that stuff with the second process. I don't know. And we got Rahandra in chat saying Apple chips are IRM and they can game just fine. That's just not true. It's just not true. Like Apple chips not on par with the PS5 and not on par with the Xbox Series X. It's just not true. It's Apple chips are fine if you want to play low end games or games at 720p with all the features stripped out of it. It's not fine, man. And maybe like there'll be advances in machine learning algorithms that improve graphics like DLSS and stuff like that. But I still think like at the end of the day, people do want those high-end experiences. And speaking of high-end experiences, Rand, you're buying an RTX 4090, aren't you, friendo?
I mean, I'm looking at because I haven't this PC I've been using the same PC for 6 years, so I've been looking to get a new PC, and I'm looking at like a 4090 and like 64 gigs of RAM and like an Intel i9 like 13900 or whatever. Like I'm basically gonna spend $4,000 on a PC because I don't want to have to buy anything for another 6 years. So I'm looking at spending a lot of money on a PC. Granted, I also can write it off for tax purposes. But I'm looking to upgrade everything. So a lot here. I mean, man, there's so much here to discuss. We have Mythic Marty saying BioWare was dead after Mass Effect 2. Mass Effect 3 was mid. You're wrong, sir. You're wrong. Mass Effect 3 was absolutely incredible. Granted, the ending sucked at the time, but the ending doesn't negate the journey. I love Mass Effect 3. Michael Mooney says, what if Phil grabs the license to KOTOR? Doubtful. I don't think that's going to happen. Jericho says, will Microsoft ever bring back Zoo Tycoon or is it dead? That one's for you, Jez. Is Microsoft ever going to bring back Zoo Tycoon? Is it their game in the first place? I think
Microsoft owns Zoo Tycoon IP.
Okay.
But I don't know if they own the full blown stuff with regards to that. So, it's kind of up in the air. Personally, I think it does fit Microsoft's wheelhouse, but I can't imagine anyone Microsoft's been like. I can't imagine anyone at Microsoft's been like, you know what, we should revive Zoo Tycoon.
We should because they did. I want to say it was a Kinect game, wasn't it? They brought it back as a Kinect game for the Xbox One because I'm pretty sure I played a little bit of it. I think there's achievements for cleaning up like elephant shit or something in the game. Or anytime you cleaned up the poo in the kennels, like a little bunch of confetti would fly out. So I remember playing Zoo Tycoon back during the Xbox One.
I played it a little bit. It was a bit simplistic for me. I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Sin Vendetta says, did either of you have any main or side quests glitch out on you in Starfield during your time playing? Had a UC Vanguard questline glitch on me, and the next quest didn't prompt. Now I have to wait to New Game Plus to complete it. I did not. Fortunately for me, all my quest lines worked great. There was one instance where I thought I was going to have a big glitch, where I was following somebody, and he went to the wrong place. And I had to reload, and actually, he was like, he walked, let's say, west, and the actual destination he had to walk was north. So you like went in a completely wrong direction to a completely different thing. It was like he walked to this elevator and went to the floor with restricted access, which I didn't have access to, and I'm like, what the hell's going on here? And I reloaded, and he walked to the correct place. So no, I didn't have any problems, but I know a couple of my friends did. Did you have any issues with any quest lines glitching out on you when you played?
No, the only bug that really bugged me. The only bug that really bugged me.
There you go.
The only issue I had really was disappearing hair.
Yeah,
like every now and then I'd enter a room and then all the NPCs' hair would disappear, but they fixed that in the day one patch, so I think only reviewers experienced that bug. I never experienced any glitches with any quests at all, which is a shocker because when I played Skyrim and Fallout 3 New Vegas, it's I had glitches left, right, and center, man. Left, right, and center. So, but yeah, on Starfield, nothing, bro. But that's a problem when the game is so damn big, so damn big that they can't catch every possible instance straight away. And they said in an interview, and I was saying this on the podcast that the game was finished since December, and they were just bug fixing at this point. But they actually announced it officially now on some interview recently, and they've been polishing it since December. So, like, can you imagine if, like, it had launched when they originally said it was going to launch without that polish, and there's still the occasional bugs getting through? But hopefully they're going to patch them up pretty quickly and stuff. There's some people in the chat coming through with other issues they've had in some of the glitches, but you know, they say they're gonna stick with the game. They've got a 5-year plan for the game apparently, so there's going to be more DLC. They're going to bug fix stuff, and any glitches like that hopefully get patched out. But oh, well.
Dude, I see someone sent me this post from Idle Sloth, which I figured I'd bring it up to you. It says, Idle Sloth rumor. According to Nora Shamrock, who's a lighting technical artist at Undead Labs' ArtStation profile, State of Decay 3 is planned to be released in 2027. The post has since been deleted.
I did see that.
What do you think about that? 2027, that is 4 years from now, and this was a game revealed 3 years ago. Could that be possible?
I think one of the issues that State of Decay has had over the past few years is probably one of structure, and I think like they were hit particularly hard by COVID. I think also Jeff Strain left, and I do kind of get the impression that they were sort of maybe not equipped to build the game they wanted to build, like the level of ambition maybe. So assuming that the 2027 date is true, and personally, I can't imagine it is. Like, seriously? We're not getting State of Decay 3 until 2027? That kind of seems ridiculous to me. Will we all even be here by then?
I mean, 2027 is like basically almost the launch of the new console.
Yeah, it's wild. Like, I kind of feel like if it is that far out, Microsoft should probably come and say something, because why would you announce a game that is that far out? You know, and I know Microsoft was desperate for announcements when they did announce it, but that is just wild to me. So I would personally like, I would hope that they'll come and, you know, talk about that and just say, yeah, it's true, it's 2027, there was some issues. You know, be a bit more transparent about it. But honestly, my backlog is so crazy. I would rather have the game be as good as possibly can be and really, really get to that quality bar that we're all hoping Xbox can reach in terms of photorealism and animation quality. Because as good as State of Decay is, as a system game, there's a lot of, you know, there's a lot of annoying things about it. Like, the animations aren't that good, and the graphics are not that great. Physics are kind of weird sometimes, and the enemy variety is not very interesting. The environments are really bland and flat. You know, and repetitive even, you know. So I would like to see the game get to that next level and just be mind-blowing and become like a tentpole franchise, you know, up there with Gears and Halo and stuff like that, Forza. And I think you only get to that tentpole level if you have that visual quality, you know, that sort of PlayStation-esque visual quality, the photorealism. And that's really what they were projecting to me, Rand. When they announced that game with the photorealistic trailer, you were telling me you were building a photorealistic game. You weren't telling me you were building stylized realism or cartoony game. You told me you were building a photorealistic State of Decay. So I'm expecting photorealism now, you know. So I don't know. And you know, I see people in chat. We never ask Sony to be transparent about factions. I don't care what Sony does. We're here to talk about Xbox. Like, you know, I'm not on the PlayStation beat, so I'm not asking Sony to be transparent. I only care about what Xbox is doing, and I personally want Xbox to be transparent. The game is not launching until 2027 when they announced it however many years ago. I want to know about that, and I think Xbox fans deserve to know about that. And I also think PlayStation fans probably deserve to know about factions as well. You know, if it has been announced.
I mean, of course they do, because I mean, factions was supposed to be with Last of Us Part 2 in 2020. which was announced in 2016, came out 4 years later. Then they made the announcement that Factions wasn't going to be a part of Last of Us Part 2 in 2020. And even
that's more transparent than Microsoft's been about on State of Decay 3.
And then,
in a way.
Neil Druckmann went to Jeff Keighley's Gamescom show last year and had a whole breakdown. Well, he talked about Factions and how we would hear about it this year, and then they announced Last of Us Part 1, and then this year happened, and all the PlayStation fans thought we would get an update about Factions at their showcase, which we didn't. And then it came out from Jason Schreier that basically Bungie had canceled Factions, or Bungie had played Factions and determined it wasn't good enough, and that a bunch of team members at Naughty Dog were moved around, and who knows if Factions ever going to come out or whatever. But I mean, Jez is right. Like, we talk about Xbox here, we talk about PlayStation in regards to Xbox, the things they're doing. Like, Some people always do the whataboutism kind of thing. It's like, you say, hey, Xbox should be transparent if State of Decay really is 2027. And then someone would be like, what about Last of Us? Factions, Jez. It's like, who cares? Like, why does... It's about this singular thing, not about what the other person's doing. You're just deflecting at that point because you don't want to actually look... at yourself in the mirror and being like, there might be an issue here with this specific game and it could be having some problems. You always want to turn it around and be like, well, what about these other guys over here? And it's like, well, it has nothing to do with what we're talking about,
Yeah, but like the whataboutism is like sometimes it's relevant and sometimes it's not relevant. And, it's I would like every dev and every publisher to be more transparent. It'd make all of our lives easier if we
the video game
didn't
industry,
have to speculate about this.
The video game industry is way too secretive. Way too secretive.
It is.
But
it is way.
I mean, like we're questioning one of the topics earlier in the podcast was about Kotor, whether or not it was canceled. Right? Like if it was a movie, they would just come out and tell you because they'd be like, "Oh, we're doing this," and it stopped filming or whatever, right? But they don't have to say anything, and it's like people are excited for Star Wars fans, PlayStation fans, and who knows what's going on with that game? Could be canceled, may not be canceled, but now it's up in limbo, and they really enjoy their secrecy because that's how they keep control for a lot of stuff. But yeah,
that is true.
Jay Foley says, have you guys seen all the comparisons to Cyberpunk and Starfield as of late? Cyberpunk comeback game of the year. Probably.
One of the... It's kind of irritating for Starfield because they kind of sandwich between Cyberpunk, which is superficially similar, first person, I know Starfield has third person mode, but a lot of people playing it first person. It's like, action RPG shooter, and then before then it was Baldur's Gate. Everyone's comparing it to Baldur's Gate. And like in a vacuum because it's space. You get it? Vacuum space?
Yeah, I get it.
Anyway, in a vacuum, it's kind of like Cyberpunk does a lot of things better than Starfield, and Baldur's Gate does a lot of things better than Starfield as well. So it's kind of inescapable for Starfield to avoid being compared to these two similar-ish kind of games, because obviously Baldur's Gate has a branching narrative, it has companions, it has these kind of quests, and then Cyberpunk, obviously cinematic action RPG, first-person shooter, photorealistic, and all that kind of stuff. And I told you guys Cyberpunk was good back in the day. And people got really mad at me for saying, hey, actually, Cyberpunk was always good. And people were like, no, it wasn't. How dare you infringe upon the comeback narrative? But Cyberpunk deserves every accolade it's getting right now. Like, Cyberpunk was always good, in my opinion. And I spoke to people at Xbox, and they said, when Sony pulled it, like, I spoke to people at Xbox, and they were saying, like, the refund rates on Cyberpunk are no higher than any other game that comes out. People are playing it and people are enjoying it. At the end of the day, I played Cyberpunk on a high-end PC that was well within the game's target recommended specs at the time, and I absolutely loved it. And but I will admit the one thing I do regret is my naivete I trusted CD Projekt Red because they didn't want to send me an Xbox code. They were like, "We're just sending you a PC code this time," and I was like, "Well, you know, I trust CD Projekt Red." I was a young, naive game journalist, Rand, and
Mm-hmm.
I presumed like, okay, well, if the PC version is pretty solid, I presume that the console versions are pretty solid. Alas, they were not, and they were pretty disastrous. And I remember because I bought the Cyberpunk. I bought the Xbox Collector's Edition for Cyberpunk. I didn't get it sent for free. I bought it myself. And no, I did not get a yellow chair. Thank you very much. I had to buy my own Collector's Edition. God, how 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 horrible to have to buy my own Collector's Edition. But and then I rocked the Xbox version because I was gonna like after the review I was gonna play it again on my Xbox, and I was disappointed. I was like, bro, this is like what the gulf, the difference between what my laptop was giving me and what my Xbox was giving me was significant. But I always loved the underlying story, and some of the moments in some of those quests were just mind blowing to me. And honestly, Starfield has given me some of those experiences too. The sort of the set piece moments, which I really remember from Cyberpunk. Some of the missions that you do, and some of the missions you do in Starfield towards the end of those main quests. And I don't want to spoil them because the game's still fresh, but I always go on about the Crimson Fleet. Absolutely love the finale of some of those quests, man. You see Vanguard as well, the twists and turns in that sort of political kind of drama almost with a hint of Alien in it. And then Crimson Fleet 2 is just so good. Um, but Cyberpunk kind of like this whole 2.0 Phantom Liberty DLC, the whole idea of this DLC was to enhance the world, right? Enhance the underlying game because the because Cyberpunk's story was always good. What people complained about beyond the console versions being broken is that the world itself wasn't sandboxy enough. Now, I was not expecting a sandbox out of Cyberpunk because The Witcher isn't really a sandbox game either. It's an open world, but it's not really a sandbox. It's not really like you're not doing GTA kind of car chases on horseback in The Witcher 3. And I wasn't expecting that from Cyberpunk either. I was expecting the background to be more like a pretty backdrop for the story missions. I was not expecting GTA, and I was not expecting Bethesda RPG. But one of the things they've done a lot of in Cyberpunk is to enhance that sandbox aspect of the game. So like there are police chases now, and there is more ambient quests going on, and there are gang wars between the different factions, and there's more going on in Cyberpunk now. So now it does feel a little bit more like a Bethesda game almost. And then when slap on the fact that it's kind of like it's had this extra 3 years of development to get to 2.0, and it's had this like massive expansion. Don't call it a DLC. They don't like it when you call it a DLC. It's an expansion in the old school 90s vernacular of what an expansion is. When you factor in those kind of stuff and you do compare it direct to Starfield does feel anemic in some ways. Like if I see that outpost again on a random planet in Starfield, where the outpost is sort of set in between a ravine, it seems to be this exact same ravine is on every single planet I go to with the exact same base. And I know like you could explain it in lore reasons, like, well, these buildings are prefabricated, 3D printed or whatever. That's fine, but every single base has the same stuff in it. So, I start feeling like when I'm doing some of the side missions in the very small side missions in Starfield, you kind of start feeling like, man, this is giving me Mass Effect 1 vibes. Like how bad the planetary exploration was in Mass Effect 1 to some degree, where you go to like a random planet and it's like, okay, here's the prefab box, and then and it's a random NPCs in this box. Either it's aliens or it's NPCs, and there's like a couple of lines of dialogue. Starfield isn't quite that bad, but the world, the exploration, and this is something I talk about in my review. It's not as if I've ever glossed over this. I talked about it in my review. The exploration in Starfield is just not great compared to some of Bethesda's denser games, Skyrim even, and Fallout. And then especially now Cyberpunk come out with all its enhancements. there's you explore in Cyberpunk. There's more things to do more quickly than there is in Starfield potentially. But much like Cyberpunk, at least Starfield is polished. And I do think like when Starfield's had a chance to get some more DLC, and they'll do free DLC, they're gonna do quality of life updates, they're gonna add more stuff, and they're gonna do paid DLC as well. I do think Starfield will sort of it will feel denser in the future, but I don't know why I feel like it's kind of like Starfield's become this punching bag where it's like it's unfair. I think it's unfair. Extra development. Yeah. 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 And I hate the way that some commentators are trying to pitch CD Projekt Red against Bethesda, and they're trying to pitch Larian against Bethesda. And I saw like the Larian head of publishing, or is it head of marketing? He pushed back. Yeah, he pushed back on some of that stuff, and he was just like, why are you attacking Bethesda? Like both of these games can be good, and to paraphrase and stuff like that. Um, I got beef with Hargate, man. Hargate is hitting up the chat with his Mac propaganda right now and his Mac lies. HSC, not definitive, but an M2 Mac runs at Liza P at 1440p, 60 FPS. I don't care, bro. I don't care. Mac sucks. Apple sucks. Don't buy Apple. Buy Windows. It's better. I don't care, bro. I don't care. My Apple bad. Apple bad. Yeah. Oh, Rand, you're muted apparently.
Oh, well, it's a good thing I wasn't really saying much, huh?
Hey, are you muted now? Are you still muted?
No, I'm unmuted.
Okay. Well, GG, Rand. What
GG.
did you mute for? Were you taking a phone call?
No, I was eating food because I was hungry. I had
eating food.
Had a recharge bar because this podcast gets to be long, and I was just like, all right, well, I'm gonna eat something, so I muted myself.
Wow.
So while you were going on your diatribe, okay, so while you were going on your diatribe about Cyberpunk, I was like, well, I'm gonna eat this thing. And what I did say for those that didn't listen is the comparison of Cyberpunk to Starfield, of like a game that came out and has 3 years of updates and an expansion. It's disingenuous to make that comparison, and it's all just clicks and SEO. It's like, oh well, I'm good. Like when Phantom Liberty came out, and they're like, I think it was like GameSpot maybe, and it was like, Cyberpunk blows away Starfield's player count or whatever, and it's like, yeah, well, Cyberpunk literally just had its long-awaited 2.0 update with an expansion, and Starfield's been out for almost a month. Like, yeah, I would expect so, but it's all just SEO. But yeah, there's just been this mean-spirited like comparison of like it's like mean-spirited like comparing Bethesda to CD Projekt Red and Bethesda and Larian and trying to like pit them against each other, like you said. It's very weird to see happen in real time. So
yeah, I think it's from people who just want a console war at the end of the day. They want to attack Bethesda for whatever reason. They want to attack by extension want to attack Xbox for whatever reason. Like Starfield has its flaws, Read my review. It's not like I gloss over any of the flaws. When I write about it, when I've talked about it in the show, and me and Rand both have never glossed over any of the flaws that Starfield has. I hadn't spoke to any reviewers. I hadn't seen anyone else's review. So when I came out with my review, like my sentiments generally echoed with other people's, and it was just like, it was just a case of how we weight the experiences. Like some people were more annoyed about the exploration or the lack thereof more than others. I was not that annoyed about the lack of exploration because I had such a blast with the story beats. I didn't really care about that stuff. The thing that annoys me the most about Starfield is the lack of violence in the game.
Yeah, you wanted the gore. Yeah.
I wanted the gore, man. I wanted the 0G gore. I wanted to, blast someone's brains out and watch the little giblets float around.
You might be a serial killer.
But dude, seriously, like, what game has that? Like, I know Dead Space does it a little bit, but imagine it like 0G, like the little droplets of blood floating there in 0G. Dude, it'd be so cool, man. Like I would have invested so much in those kind of systems if I had been game director. But anyway, I think the game would have reviewed higher as well if it had violence. I'm just saying.
Maybe
If it had violence and nudity, I think it would have been
nudity. Now you want nudity. Yeah. Okay.
Dude, yeah, I mean, people want that shit now. Baldur's Gate cracked that shit wide open. That game has bare sex in it, bro.
They sure did.
Bare sex in Baldur's Gate. Now, anything goes, bro. Like the sort of vanilla marriages you can have in Starfield don't really stack up.
Are you saying I'm saying you want full penetration in the next Bethesda game in Elder Scrolls?
Yes, I want full frontal penetration in Elder Scrolls 6 with in Oblivion with the demons. Bring it on. Bring a succubus in. I don't care. Let's go crazy, Bethesda.
You hear that, Todd?
Says get a PC Jez mod to your friend.
You hear that, Todd? Jez wants demon sex in Elder Scrolls. Make it happen, Todd.
I just got your channel demonetized.
Yeah.
Sorry, bro.
Lady Foxfire in the super chat says, I was lucky enough to podcast with you a few times. Congrats again. Thank you. Been supporting you since you were podcasting with Maka and before the Ori achievement. Thank you. Silent Cypher says, congrats on 100K. Well deserved. Looking forward to the future of the show and the game industry. Going to be a wild upcoming years. Cheers. Spartan61 or 661 in the super chat says, congrats for the 100K, Rand and Jez. I appreciate your content and helps listening to you guys on my long travels. I can't listen live every show, but when I do, I try to super chat. Well, thank you. We're just happy you're here. Big Afro Man. What if Kamiya will be the new CEO of PlayStation and make a new Scalebound exclusive? I doubt that'll happen. But yeah, Kamiya has left Platinum, and it sort of didn't seem mutual. Like the way he sort of tweeted made it kind of feel that
stock, wasn't it?
Yeah. So the I don't know. The common sentiment or thinking is that he's going to be joining NetEase because they're making all those sort of the Chinese company making all those sort of deals. And I would not be surprised if Kamiya and who's the guy that just left Tango? I keep on Mikami, maybe like build a studio together under NetEase. I would not be surprised if that happened. But it was
true
to see Kamiya leave Platinum is weird because I almost feel like Platinum's not long for the world now. Or whatever, like I don't know, or maybe like Platinum's just going to be doing like mercenary work, like what they did on Final Fantasy 16, and maybe not make their own games as much. And I know people we've been talking about it. People have always asked like, "Oh, Xbox should work with Platinum," but I feel like if Kamiya's gone, it's like, do you even want to work with Platinum again? Because like they are, because Platinum is a studio that you either get an A experience. A masterpiece of the genre, or you get some bullshit crap like Babylon's Fall or something. You know what I mean? You need to make sure that you got the right people on the job, so you get an Astral Chain or a Bayonetta 3, and not some of their Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles or Babylon's Fall, like C tier stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, Platinum was super hit and miss, and I think like one of the issues with Platinum is it's cash flow again, man. It's like cash flow. Like if you got to pay all your devs and you don't have good games coming out, and those bangers bringing in those royalties, or those service games bringing in those ongoing revenue streams, I kind of feel like maybe Platinum is in really dire straits. And I think they kind of hinted at that at the start of the year where they were talking about looking for a buyer. It's weird. Platinum's like quite upfront with some of its problems, and like Kamiya leaving fairly unceremoniously, and like Platinum putting out this like statement in a JPEG on Twitter saying like, we appreciate Kamiya and he's going to do great things. It was almost apologetic.
It almost kind of feels like his game he was working on maybe was canceled or moving to a different direction. Because I think he was working on a game called Project GG, or at least the code name. So maybe they decided to move in a different direction or do something. And he's like, I'm out of here. I can go do something else.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be interesting to see where he lands. Like,
and it's like you mentioned how they've been open about wanting to be bought, essentially, and then you have Capcom, who was asked if they would, accept a Microsoft acquisition offer, and Capcom's like, we would gracefully like, who's asking that, and why do you expect them to say, of course, like, what do you expect Capcom to say? If some reporter asked, number one, I don't know why a reporter's asking this question, maybe because the ABK stuff's in the news, but they asked Capcom, and the person's like, oh, no, we would gracefully decline, and we'd rather be equal partners. But it's like, why would you ask that? And number one, and two, like, what do you expect the person to say? They're not going to say, oh, we're open to all acquisition offers. They're a public company, so they're going to say, of course they're going to say no. And if Microsoft did come in, now let's say like Capcom's worth $10 billion, and Microsoft did come in with a legitimate offer of $30 billion, the Capcom CEO and the CFO are literally like required to bring that in front of their shareholders for their fiduciary duty they have to the shareholders, right? To get the best return to their value. So like them saying, like Sega saying they're not any interested in acquisitions, or Capcom saying they're not interested, it doesn't mean shit, because everybody says they're not interested into it until they are. Insomniac forever said they weren't interested in being bought. They love being independent. Until the check cleared from PlayStation. So, like whatever they say, it doesn't mean anything, because if an actual legitimate offer came through, they would have to then discuss it. I don't know, but it's weird to see companies people be like, so are you gonna get bought by Microsoft, and have to actually legitimately respond to that. So I don't know. I thought like he had Platinum saying, we want to be bought. And then Capcom's like, we would gracefully decline, Big Eye for Men says in Super Chat, with Jim Ryan stepping down, will PlayStation fans finally have something to talk about besides Xbox? Yeah, people weren't too happy with my tweet about that.
Yeah, I did see that and think, oh, Rand's gonna get some blowback for that. But
you know what? You know what I did? I do for all my tweets. I tweeted it out, muted it, and never looked at it again. So if there's people in there talking smack, I'm not going to see it, and I'll never see it. Have fun talking to a wall.
That's hilarious.
Because, I mean, like, look.
Sorry, go on.
No, I constantly see it every time. Like, Starfield was out. All the PlayStation shows were about Starfield and how shitty it was, or what have you. It's always, here's this irrelevant console, at least by your standards, this irrelevant console, third place console, last place, and yet it's the thing you always talk about on every single show. It's the topic that keeps your show somewhat relevant, even though you're not relevant. And because if you didn't talk about Xbox, your show would literally talk about nothing. So you have all these PlayStation shows talking about Xbox and the acquisitions and their games. And there's hardly any talk about PlayStation, because let's be honest, there's not much to talk about PlayStation. Xbox is always in the news for one thing or another, So it's just, that was my point. And I don't mean like every PlayStation show's like that, because I know the Trophy Room with Mr. Badbit, they're not like that or whatever. And I'm sure there's other ones. I know like, the Bracast with PlayStation Bra, not like that either. It was more just a specific dig at a specific, group of podcasters and Twitter users who hate Microsoft yet only talk about Xbox 24/7 because that's all they can do. Because nobody cares about their thoughts about PlayStation. It's all about Xbox and getting engagement and stuff. And it's sad, but that's what it is. That was just my point when I said that. I was like, well, maybe they'll talk about the future of PlayStation instead of Xbox. And it was just like, oh, I know this is going to anger some people, but oh well, oh well.
I mean, there are some interesting topics to discuss out of this, and Jason Schreier's got like, he's got an article up on Bloomberg which sort of offers a bit more context on well, this leadership change.
There's still a bunch of super chats. I'll get to the rest of them, but let's switch gears and let's talk about the Xbox leaks, because you haven't discussed any of this. We'll get to the Jim Ryan stuff. I'll get to the rest of the super chats. So, what do you think, Jez, when you're in Iceland slipping your hot chocolate from the fan of Xbox 2, And I would imagine your phone probably started blowing up. Like, what happened when all that happened for you in Iceland? I want to play by play. I want to know how you found out.
So my phone actually didn't blow up because
Okay.
I turned off all my notifications for the last 2 weeks. So every now and then, I was kind of like looking at my phone, in between trips, and my girlfriend's in the bathroom or something like that. I don't know. Looking at my phone when I'm not super busy, or for an hour before bed. I look at my phone and like I see everyone going crazy on Twitter, and I see Tom Warren's, because usually when I load my phone up, it goes to the For You page on Twitter, not the You're Following page. And the algorithm slapped Tom Warren's tweets about the leaks right at the top of my feed. I think I was a couple of hours late to them, I think, if I remember correctly. And Tom Warren was just like, yeah, breaking Xbox leaks literally everything. And I was just looking through the pictures, and I didn't have time to read everything at the time, like the email. So I was just kind of piecemeal looking through the tweets and the reactions and some of the pictures that were coming up, and the sort of the document with the diagram showing like Xbox's roadmap and the handheld image there and all that kind of stuff. And I'm just sitting there thinking, like, I actually got like anxiety because I was like, Jesus, I am in the wrong place at the wrong time right now.
And that was like that was the very beginning of your vacation. That was Monday night when that happened.
Yeah, it was crazy. And I was freaking out a little bit because I was like, oh my God, am my team gonna cover this? Are they gonna do it justice? And are they even available? Are they overworked or too busy? And I was freaking out about all that, but they did a good job. And my girlfriend, I was telling my girlfriend, like, oh my God, Microsoft just leaked everything. My girlfriend's rolling her eyes. Oh God, stop working, and all that kind of stuff. And so yeah, it was absolutely wild. And there was so much. It was the volume of the leak that was the most shocking thing. And I do wonder if someone's been fired over this, because it was significant, man. It's not like it was a little like a JPEG or something. It was like emails, embarrassing emails, comments from Phil, which undermine Xbox's image in some ways, and we'll get into that in a minute. And some of the plans, like the ARM chip we were talking about earlier, that could impact negotiations with AMD. Like AMD could be like they're discussing for the next Xbox, and AMD might be like, well, we've seen here that you're actually negotiating with ARM for the next Xbox, so our premium's just gone up or something like that. I don't know. There are all kinds of implications as a result of this whole, turmoil from all these leaks, and so I just sort of had to let it go, man. I just had to let it go and just think, you know what? I'll run through all this stuff with Rand Althor, my good buddy, the man with the million, the trending gamer, and we'll talk about that in a couple of weeks after my Iceland trip. So I'm here now, not armed with the nitty gritty and the full blown facts. I'm here armed with the tweets and the occasional bits and pieces, and missing a lot of the information. So I'm going to let you lead this topic.
Well,
and we will.
I want to know if
blah.
Did any of the code names, project names that leak out of this? Did you have? You just weren't sure, because we did get at least 2 consoles with 2 code names. Did you have that, like Brooklyn and Elwood? Did you have those codes?
Yeah. So I think I had Brooklyn, if I remember correctly. I had a bunch of code names that I weren't sure what they were attached to. I have to go back and remember which exactly it was, but I recognized them, and I was like, shit, are those code names? I haven't actually double checked that yet. And one of the issues with that is that the code names came to me in a JPEG rather than text. So I can't even like search my messages to find that image. I haven't even had a chance to look yet. But yeah, I think I might have had both of them, man. I think like I recognize both of them. I was like, damn. So that's what that is. But code names mean nothing without context, and now we've got a lot of context on all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Rand, I need to take a very quick phone call, however.
Oh, a phone call? You never take a phone call during the podcast.
Yeah, I know, but this is from the bank, so it's kind of important.
Well, then you take the phone call.
I'll just be like 2 minutes.
Yeah, you take the phone call. I'll read some super chats here. We got Honcho Reckless. He says, a little fun question. With Starfield's release, Xbox owns 3 separate space IPs. With what we know about the ending of Starfield, what are the chances of a Starfield Prey Outer Worlds hybrid game? Probably very slim. I mean, who knows if they'll ever even do a Starfield 2, right? We know that they're going to be doing Elder Scrolls 6 maybe in 2028 or 2029. I think it was like 2024 on the Bethesda leak, but I mean, that was obviously all wrong, the dates. We know Outer Worlds 2 has been working on, and I mean, who knows if Prey ever comes back, but I doubt it. I doubt they do some sort of hybrid game. Oh, my buddy Gaming Forte says, last time I said congrats in a super chat was almost 6 years ago. Glad I remembered to put less zeros this time. You're a trusted friend that deserves this and more. Congrats, a friend. Hashtag 1milli. Yeah, for those that don't know, Gaming Forte like 6 years ago dropped what at the time, and I think still is, the biggest super chat I've ever received. It blew my mind. All of a sudden, this red image showed up with $500, and I'm like, excuse me? And it was Forte, and I was like, I was blown away because that is like super generous. Like, you don't expect anybody to drop that. I'm just telling everybody about the time Forte accidentally super chatted $500, and then I was like, hey, if you didn't mean that, I'll try to refund your money. And he was like, oh, I totally didn't mean that. I meant to send you $5 instead. They accidentally sent me $500, but there's no way to refund a super chat. And, you know, so he immediately kind of, I think he immediately disputed it with his bank or whatever. But yeah, that's a funny situation. Me and Forte were talking about the other night. So, but yeah, back to the leak, the future of Xbox, as essentially I called it in the title here, because, and we probably won't go that in depth about it because we talked about it last week with Colt and Lord Cognito, who held down the fort in Jez's absence. You know, ILP hit 20,000 subs this past week too, so that's huge for them. Congratulations to ILP, one of the best podcasts out there, period. King David and Lord Cognito, or as you know people call him, Lord Cognito, Lord Beefy, Lord Addict, always just tends to ride me about stuff. He rided me about getting an Xbox 2 and riding me about the camera. And Lord Sovereign. So congrats to them. And I feel like we did a great job, and I'm sure a lot of people are overhearing about it. So we won't go super in depth. We'll get Jez's thoughts on it because some of it is really exciting. So you had Brooklyn and you had Elwood, and Brooklyn was the Series X refresh for the same price, $499, with an extra 1 terabyte of storage and improved Wi-Fi and improved Bluetooth technology. And at least in the image, it looked like a cylinder, but also completely all digital. In fact, Microsoft described it in the image as adorably all digital, which was hilarious.
Adorably all digital.
Adorably all digital.
That is terrible marketing.
Who gets paid to come up with that? Whatever, right?
I think it's almost ironic for internal use, maybe. I don't know.
Well, yeah.
But I will say, it is kind of adorable, the console. I mean,
if it looks like that.
I think it looks pretty cool.
Yeah, but I just don't think there's any way it's going to be a cylinder. I don't think there's any way.
You don't think so? You don't think that image was representative? You think it was just conceptual?
I don't think it's going to. Yeah, I don't think so. Because let me ask you this.
The first thing I thought when I saw that cylinder.
What?
I was like, bro, what about those bloody rectangular covers they've just released?
Right, that was what I was going to mention. Is they just released the wraps, the Starfield and the Camel ones, and now supposedly you're going to be releasing a console that's cylinder that wouldn't work with the wraps you're about to put out. So you're saying the wraps that you're about to release are only going to work on the 10 million or so Series X's because in the slides too, it says that the current Series X is going to be discontinued. And so I'm thinking about it. I was like, well, if you're releasing these wraps, but then having this console that's designed as a cylinder, are you going to redesign the wraps, or is the design of the console still going to be square? You know what I'm saying? You had the same thought as I did.
Yeah, I don't know, but at the same time, I kind of think like if you are going to release a new Xbox, it kind of needs to look different, you know. What's the point, right? I mean, I know there's a good reason to make a mid-gen upgrade because the parts could be cheaper.
Well, it's not an upgrade though. It's just a refresh.
Well.
Wait,
Doesn't it have faster IO or something?
I mean, it
Faster
has a
PCI,
faster,
I think,
yeah,
or
like a
something,
faster
something
south
like
bridge or something. But it's not like
like
it's
the
a better.
it'll have improved loading speeds.
It's not
or
like
something.
it, but it's not like it's got a better GPU or a better CPU. It's just got it's got more storage.
Bro. But it's like, call it refined then, or whatever you want to call it. But it does have some features that I think the Xbox doesn't have, like Bluetooth, for example.
Okay.
I think they've said that the Xbox Series X doesn't have Bluetooth. Like apparently the network card in it is capable of Bluetooth. Someone's told me that. I don't know how accurate that is, but it's not enabled and it's not connected. So like, if I remember correctly from glancing over those documents, one of the things that the new Xbox Series S and X was going to have was Bluetooth, which obviously has a whole range of implications for what you could do there in terms of accessories and stuff like that. And I don't know if it is a refresh. I don't think it makes sense to have it looking exactly the same. Like the carbon black edition with the 2 terabyte storage is like literally it's literally a Series S. So it's like an addition.
Yeah, but
this is like a full-blown refresh.
At the same time, you're going to be discontinuing the previous model, so it's not like there's going to be two models that look exactly the same. The only one you're going to be able to get is this new one. Right?
Yeah, like, sure, but yeah, I don't know. I think it could look the same, and I can't personally, Rand, if they are gonna do a new Xbox Series X and they are sort of concepting it in their documents, why bother coming up with a concept for a different looking Xbox if you weren't going to do a different looking Xbox?
Sure.
Why not just copy and paste the million Xbox Series X copies you've got already and then just change the color?
What if I want to put if I want to put my cylinder Xbox horizontal and it just rolls off my entertainment center?
Well, if you're putting your Xbox Series X horizontal, you're doing it wrong in the first place.
No, I mean I already because I can't fit it in my entertainment center.
You got to change your entertainment center, bro.
No, I'm sorry. Either way,
the Xbox will release the official Xbox Series X entertainment center, which has a special circle cut out to slot in your Xbox Series X cylinder edition. Right. Call it the cylinder edition.
And then it
looks like a giant can of Coke.
Yeah. Then there's Elwood, which is the Series S refresh, which $299, 1 terabyte of storage, faster I/O, Bluetooth, all that sort of stuff. But both these consoles come with a brand new controller, Sybil. That is bringing haptics, Jazz. Remember, I always told you haptics was going to happen this gen. I thought it was going to happen in a new Elite controller. It's actually happening with the new standard Xbox controller. That has direct-to-cloud capability, whatever the hell that means.
I didn't know what that means. I did not know what that means.
Better thumbsticks and better design or whatever. And they moved like the start and select and the share button, at least what it looks like a share button, are all on the same plane instead of offset. So it looks like we're getting a brand new controller with haptics. And even in the funding chart, it was like, hey, Design Labs is already funded for this. And they want to do Design Labs for consoles too, for the Series X refresh as well. And one of the things that isn't funded is handheld, is a first-party handheld. Was one of the things not funded or not in scope for first-party, along with like earphones and things of that nature. So it looks like that's the hardware we're going to be getting until next generation in 2028. It's going to be interesting to see next year, one, if they stick to this plan, because the launch timing was Elwood Series S at the end of August, early September, and then the Series X refresh, Brooklyn, at the end of October, early November, $499 and $299. But also, at least according to Tom Henderson, the PS5 is supposed to be launching a Pro version that year for $500. That is double the power and performance of the current PS5. It would be interesting strategy to see if Microsoft releases and prices the Series X refreshes the same as the PS5 Pro, because that could be not good for them. that could.
Why do you think that?
Why do I think
Why is
that?
that a big deal? Yeah, why is it a big deal?
I don't know, because you feel like if you can get a system that has better performance for the same price as another's, then what's the point of buying that one? But I guess it would all come down to catalog, services, and things of that nature. I mean, even if you look at the PS5 Slim, and if that would drop down, its price point a little bit, to compete more, with the Series S, I guess. It's like, well, I don't know. I feel that, in like the hardcore space, and maybe it doesn't matter in the overall space, but if you had a Series X from 4 years ago competing with the much better PlayStation 5, I mean, the value for money and performance for money, I don't think that favors Xbox in that regard.
Well, it's one take that I've seen is that Xbox starts the next gen early.
Well, yeah, that's what people are talking about, but at least according to that timeline, they're not going to. It's going to be fiscal year 2028. And I know Phil did say that, these are old plans and that they can't wait to share the real plans with you. But I mean, how much of these plans can actually legitimately change? Right? Like maybe launch timing on stuff, maybe price points, maybe I don't really see a lot of it change. But even still, like I don't really think the hardware stuff is that exciting. Anyways, it's the Bethesda stuff is what I wanted to get your thoughts on, because I'm sure you saw the Bethesda roadmap, right?
I did, yeah. The Bethesda roadmap was crazy.
Yeah, even though it was all basically wrong. Wrong by Starfield was supposed to come out in 2021. We're vindicated, Jez. Remember I said that? I had heard that it was supposed to come out in 2021.
Yes,
COVID. Vindicated.
It's COVID.
Yeah,
it's COVID, bro. It's COVID.
But hey, new Doom, Doom Year Zero, a Dishonored 3, a Ghostwire Tokyo 2, but all of them essentially, who knows, an Oblivion remaster, a Fallout 3 remaster, but yeah, all basically 2 to 3 years. I don't know. I wonder when Microsoft bought them in 2020 and they saw that roadmap, they were like, oh, God, we're set. We're good. Look at all these games that are scheduled. And then like realizing that literally none of them hit. Like the first one's hit in 2023. And
well, no one thought Gamescom. No one thought COVID was going to drop when it did, bro.
True.
But yeah, do you have the roadmap to hand? We can run through that shit.
Yeah, hold on, let me grab it.
Because obviously the dates are all going to be wrong, but we can speculate and go through all the cool shit that may or may not be happening on the horizon.
Yeah, so you had fiscal year 2020 was Doom Eternal DLC, Elder Scrolls Online, Fallout Wastelanders, and Deathloop. 2021 was Starfield, Redfall, Doom Eternal DLC, Ghostwire Tokyo, and Project Hibiki, which was that's Hi-Fi Rush. So those all got pushed 2 years, except for like the Doom Eternal DLC and stuff. 2022 was supposed to be Indiana Jones, an Oblivion remaster, and Starfield DLC. And Indiana Jones, by the way, is 3 planned games, Jez, according to this.
Oh, I missed that. Yeah. 3 games?
3 planned titles for Indiana Jones.
That must be pretty confident in the format they've got for it then.
And that was supposed to be out last year. So
yeah, I mean, that would have been... I always thought that would have been something to try and tie it to the movie, which, by the way, came and went like a fart in the wind. But what the hell happened to that Indiana Jones movie? Like, did it even come out?
It did come out, and it wasn't very good, and it kind of bombed at the box office.
I feel like I saw no marketing for that at all. Like zero marketing anywhere for that movie. Like, whereas like you couldn't escape the marketing for Barbie or for Oppenheimer and a bunch of other stuff. Like, did anyone here see any marketing for Indiana Jones? Like, I wasn't sure if it was even out or if they'd just shown it at like some event, like a film festival or something. But yeah, people, I don't know. Some people on Twitter were saying it was good though.
I didn't like it. I watched it and I
You
didn't
you
like
watched
it.
it?
Yeah. So, I mean, like,
Yeah.
Indiana Jones is supposed to be 2022, and it's like, okay, well, if you look at Starfield and Redfall and Hi-Fi Rush, they were pushed 2 years. Does that mean Indiana Jones is next year? Because Todd did say we would see Indiana Jones next year, and it was halfway through development. Does that mean Indiana Jones is going to actually come out next year? I'm very doubtful about that, but I guess you never know. This year, Jez, was supposed to be Doom Year Zero. I mean, it doesn't say like who it's from, but I'm assuming that's id's game. Doom Year Zero plus DLC. Project Kestrel, which I would guess is the ZeniMax Online team's new game.
Yeah, Kestrel.
And Project Platinum, which we have no idea what it is. And then 2024 is supposed to be Elder Scrolls 6. So Elder Scrolls 6 was in 2020 was planned to be coming out in 2024. And well, I mean, that ain't happening. Elder Scrolls 6 probably ain't coming out until like 2028, 2029. A Project Kestrel expansion, a licensed IP game that our buddy Special Nick over at Xbox Era says is under the Disney banner. So take your pick of what that could be. A Fallout 3 remaster, which people have been asking for a while. A sequel to Ghostwire Tokyo, Dishonored 3, and Doom Year Zero DLC. So at least that's what their 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-year roadmap from 2020. It looks great. This was like to me, it was the most exciting thing out of all the leaks. Was like games.
Games are always more interesting.
I mean, a Dishonored 3. I never thought we'd get a Dishonored 3. At least being planned in 2020. The question is, who's making it? Is it going to be the Deathloop team or the Redfall team? I think it's also interesting that Deathloop 2 isn't on here, but Ghostwire Tokyo is. Did they think in 2020 that Ghostwire Tokyo would be the bigger game? Or did Arcane Leon not want to do a Deathloop 2 and they wanted to do a Dishonored 3 instead?
I kind of feel like Deathloop was almost a quick game to get some cash, because let's be honest about Deathloop, it doesn't have the biggest scope in the world for a AAA game.
Sure.
Like the game is sort of like, the loop is kind of like a clever way to reuse assets. Let's call it what it is, right? And it's sort of like, you play through the same game repeatedly, and it's a cool world, but it's a very small world that you repeatedly go through. So I consider Deathloop to be like a small team. I would not be surprised if Deathloop 2 just does not happen. Personally speaking, I don't think that franchise has legs.
Well, they could.
Dishonored 3 was shooing.
They could do a combined Deathloop Dishonored game, because they did confirm that the universe it's in the same universe. So they could do a Deathloopy Dishonored.
No, let's not go there.
I'm just saying they could.
I don't like that.
I mean, that's the question about who's making it. Is it the Redfall team or the Deathloop team? Because we don't know.
Yeah, so I suppose like a lot of these plans, like Phil said, like a lot of these plans are old, and some of this stuff's going to be thrown out the window. Like, what is Project Hibiki? Do we know
Project
what that
Hibiki was Hi-Fi Rush.
Oh, okay.
And that was supposed to come out in 2021. We don't know what Project Kestrel is. I think that's the ZeniMax Online game that they've been working on for 4 years now. AAA new IP. We don't know what Project.
Surely an MMO, right?
Probably. I mean, it says even in the following year, it says Project Kestrel expansion, so I'm assuming so. But we don't know what Project Platinum is, and we don't know what their licensed IP is. Another licensed IP that they're working on.
They grew the Elder Scrolls Online team. They expanded the footprint of the developers working on Elder Scrolls Online, presumably because the main team will probably move on to Kestrel. So yeah, that's interesting, but no guesses as to what that is. I mean, if we follow like, I don't know, it's a new IP, so it could literally be anything. Licensed IP, like according to Nick, that's Disney. Again, that could be literally anything. Like what is an IP that Disney wants to push right now? I suppose like they've got Star Wars. I mean, Are we hitting a saturation point with Star Wars a little bit? Maybe, I don't know. And then like Pedro Perez in chat says, Project Platinum, could that be Wolfenstein 3? I mean, could be.
I
I
don't
mean,
know.
you want to assume that they're working on a new Wolfenstein, and then Doom Year Zero. Like Year Zero, can we speculate what that could be?
What do you think it could be?
Like,
A
like
prequel?
it has to be a prequel following like the if we follow the lore of the modern Doom games, they go into like the ancient Doom Slayers, not just like we got Doom Slayer, modern day Doom Slayer, but there's also like these ancient Doom Slayer wars where like if you play through like some of the Doom games, there's these ruins of like these battlefields and like giant mechs and all this kind of stuff from like previous wars with the Doomslayers and the forces of hell. So they're really with the modern Doom games, they really opened up the lore to a point where they could take that game to new places, you know, the franchise to new places. So I suppose Doom's Year Zero is probably a prequel. Maybe it goes back to the early days of the creation of the Doomslayers Covenant or whatever. I don't know. But yeah, Doom is great. So Doom's gonna do gangbusters, I would presume. Ghostwire Tokyo sequel. I want that sequel to happen, and I think like maybe before this, they probably would have looked at the performance of Ghostwire Tokyo and been like, actually, that's probably not a good idea. But I think after Game Pass, I think Ghostwire Tokyo, Microsoft was quite positive to me about Ghostwire Tokyo and its performance in Game Pass. I think Ghostwire Tokyo is the kind of game where maybe people wouldn't have paid full price for it, but they would have found something to enjoy from it after the updates it got, after the extra quests it got, because some of those quests are creepy as hell. And
Yeah, the new quest in the school. Yeah.
yeah, the school quest was the school quest was almost sort of like almost like a vision of where they could take the franchise and sort of like, look, give them more time. This is the kind of content we can potentially do, you know. So I think like maybe Ghostwire Tokyo 2 might have been cancelled in another universe, but I think in the advent of Game Pass and probably got a second wind, and maybe Ghostwire
Well,
Tokyo 2 actually does happen and actually becomes
Phil
really
was
good.
just at in Japan for TGS, and he was meeting with Tango, right? And you know,
Exactly.
I think they highly value Tango, and I think Hi-Fi Rush is going to be a big franchise for them. I know there's a lot of people that are like Evil Within 3, but it's sort of had its. I think it's Evil Within, and I know there's like the horror renaissance, but I feel like it's been a while, and like clearly, I think the priority should be a Hi-Fi Rush 2. And if they feel very strongly about a Ghostwire Tokyo, do that, right? They at least have two teams.
Yeah.
I don't know if they have three, so
yeah, I really like we talked about this on a previous show, but it's like I really would like to see Evil Within 3 return to the sort of almost linear-ish formula of Evil Within 1, sort of more like Resident Evil 4, and not sort of like the almost wide linear stealth kind of game they came up with for Evil Within 2. I found Evil Within 2 quite tedious, less scary and more tedious. But Evil Within 1 was incredible. I absolutely love that game. And some of the bosses towards the end of that game are just so creative and so just out there, disgusting. Like, there's, man, I don't want to spoil it for people who haven't played it, because I feel like not enough people have played Evil Within 1. Go and play Evil Within 1 on Game Pass. You know, just stick it on easy even, just to see the art and the story unfold, because, you know, it doesn't play that well like on normal. It's unnecessarily tough sometimes, and it gives you these difficulty spikes that sort of really negatively impact the pacing. But if you just play on easy just to experience the art and the game's world, Evil Within 1 is so underrated. Highly recommend you go and check that on Game Pass. But at the same time, I do think like Ghostwire Tokyo potentially has more appeal overall, because it's sort of like this, you know, urban fantasy kind of genre, which is very popular in Japan, and the authenticity in its sort of like adherence to folkloric themes in Ghostwire Tokyo, I think could have, it has appeal in Japan, but also like wider appeal to, fans of Japanese stuff outside of Japan. Um, yeah, I don't know. And Devilbringer says Shinji Mikami didn't do Evil Within 2, it was a different director. It was actually the director of Hi-Fi Rush did Evil Within 2, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like he's like I kind of feel like he was sort of battling between, you can sort of see it in Hi-Fi Rush. Like he wanted to make a gameplay heavy game. And that's what Hi-Fi Rush is. And I think like he tried to make Evil Within 2 more of a gameplay heavy game than a typical horror game, which is why like there's a lot of gameplay systems there which I don't think worked that well. But I think like when he was unleashed with Hi-Fi Rush, clearly he really, really heavily delivered. But yeah, I'd love to see Shinji Mikami come back for Evil Within 3. Like, will it happen? Probably not, but I don't know. But this roadmap is just incredible.
Yeah,
and like,
great.
COVID put a huge dent in it. So like some of these games, like we're not getting for a while. Like is Fallout 4 remaster even on this list?
Fallout 3 remaster.
Well, the Fallout they're remastering Fallout
right,
4
but
first,
they aren't
right?
remastering it. It's just a next gen update. Or maybe
really?
maybe
Don't we already have that?
No, we don't actually. It's just like a 4K 60 update for the game for next gen.
Like a Game of the Year edition kind of thing.
It's not even like a Game of the Year edition. It's just a free update.
Doesn't it have like the DLC? It's just an update. There's no DLC in it.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, it could be like the Skyrim anniversary thing. I could be I think it's just an update to bring it to 4K 60, because I think right now you need to use the mods to get it to 60 if I'm not mistaken. And this will be like, no, this is an update from Bethesda. Maybe it will be packaged with other things like Skyrim was. I don't know. And yeah, it's probably gonna, the TV show's early next year. They'll have the game out for them, but I don't think it's going to be like a new release or anything. It's just going to be like Fallout 4 is now 4K 60 on the PS5 and the Xbox Series X.
Yeah.
But I don't know, maybe they didn't have that planned at the time of this roadmap or whatever, but the Fallout 3 remaster and the Oblivion remaster, which we've seen leaks of Oblivion remaster, that it's being worked at Virtuous, I think. Was the name of the company doing the Oblivion remaster. So yeah, we'll see. I mean, reading this, like, I get excited about like these games, like Dishonored 3. Yes, please. Doom, like anything from id. So yeah, like 3 Indiana Jones games. That's super surprising. A licensed IP. I wonder who's making it. I wonder what it is. So there's some cool stuff here. Nothing from Xbox Game Studios leaked, which people didn't seem to understand because none of Xbox Game Studios' projects were needed for discovery in the FTC case. So they didn't leak, because there was a lot of people saying, like, what? They don't have any plans for Halo? They don't have any plans for Perfect? It's like they weren't part of this. Like, what don't you understand? Like, FTC didn't need to see the documentation for Xbox's first-party stuff. So there was nothing here to leak from that. I don't know. It was very weird. But yeah, you mentioned like some emails that that Phil had that kind of put Xbox in a bad light, as you mentioned. I'm assuming you're talking about the Nintendo email that people freaked the fuck out of over.
Yeah, well, there was a bunch of emails that people freaked out over, so I don't know if you've got them up.
I don't have them.
Freakish. Well, paraphrase them then.
The only one I know about is the one where Phil wanted Nintendo, and he thought of it as a career achievement, but basically said that their leadership team wasn't going to sell or whatever, and I mean,
with regards to that, I kind of got the impression that he was just spitballing. I mean, who in their right mind, right? Wouldn't think that would be a career-defining moment. So first of all, people took issue with that, and it's kind of like, yeah, of course he's going to say that, because it would be a career-defining moment, and they are in acquisition season, and Nintendo was obviously really boost Xbox's aspirations, because one of the things that people often forget when it comes to this console war bullshit is that Xbox, and we keep saying this, we keep banging on about this, ABK is not about console. It's not about console. It's about mobile. It's about mobile.
Was that a duck?
That was a duck.
Okay.
There's a duck. It's a random duck. I just wanted to click the duck, man. I was looking at that soundboard phrase and I was like, what does a duck sound like? Okay, well, no. But yeah, the it's about mobile. Duck. What the fuck? It's about mobile. It's not about PlayStation. And when people say like, oh my god, they want to buy Nintendo because they want to kill PlayStation or whatever, it's not about that. What it's about is having exclusive content. It's about having exclusive content for their mobile gaming store, which is probably going to launch next year, to be honest. Because the European Union has forced Apple to adopt USB-C for its charging port, but they're also forcing them to adopt an open store system. So like what they're going to do to Apple is force Apple to allow Microsoft and other companies to install their own app stores on iOS devices. So what Microsoft wants to build is the Steam of mobile devices. They want to build a Steam of mobile devices, which is like, and how do you build a Steam of mobile devices? You kind of need exclusive content. So like when it comes to exclusive content with mobile games, they don't really have a lot going from right now. They got Minecraft, yes. Minecraft they can put in there. They've got Solitaire, yes. They can put Solitaire in there. Exclusively so, and take it off the Apple App Store or whatever. But where they're really gonna make headway is with some of these ABK franchises, stuff like Diablo Immortal and Hearthstone to a lesser degree, and Warcraft Rumble, which is coming out soon, and stuff like that. And maybe not only that, but they can be like, hey Genshin, we will offer you better payment terms than Apple will. Instead of taking a 30% cut, we'll take a 10% cut if you put Genshin Impact exclusively for iOS on Xbox Store for mobile. And they can do these kind of things. And Apple will be forced to compete with them because at the end of the day, this is one thing that all developers hate about Apple is how much Apple takes the cut, the big fat Apple cut. They hate it. And there's no competition. There's no way to avoid that cut. And that's why Fortnite isn't even available on iOS anymore. Because Epic Games is like, bollocks to this, we're not paying 30%. And now Epic's just had to lay off almost 1,000 people. You know, so poor Epic. They're really struggling for money, Rand. They got the biggest game in the world, but they are struggling for money. So Epic Games is waiting with bated breath for this Steam for mobile. Because Epic Games were like, oh yeah, Fortnite, we can slap Fortnite straight into the Epic, the store, the Xbox store for mobile that they're building and all that kind of stuff. So like when Phil talks about like, yeah, we could acquire Nintendo, it's not because they're thinking, yeah, we'll be able to steal all Sony's market share. They're thinking like, we can put Nintendo's IP to work and make exclusive Nintendo. We can make Pokemon Go exclusive to our store, you know, and Nintendo hasn't really explored mobile that much. They've got like things like that Mario Run game, but like Nintendo has historically been kind of hands off. But we're getting to a point now where, you know, the latest Snapdragon processors and, you know, Apple's chips and whatever, they can run higher end console games. You know, they're getting to a level of like Xbox One and PS4 graphics, which according to other leaks, the Nintendo Switch is about the Nintendo Switch 2 is about PS4 Xbox One level. I did read that, right, Rand? Did you read that as well?
The what?
Or am I making the Nintendo Switch 2 is like PS4 level, isn't it?
Yeah, like PS4, Xbox One level, yeah.
Yeah, so if mobile devices are now as powerful as the next Nintendo Switch, you know, you could easily, if you were Microsoft, it's like, we'll put the next Zelda on iOS on our store. We'll put the next Mario on there. Like, these aren't mobile games. These become like full-blown console games now, and they're exclusive to Xbox's mobile store. That's how Microsoft sees the growth of its business. They don't want to steal market share on console from Sony because they don't see that business growing. They don't see it growing anymore. They don't see console growing anymore. So they are thinking, we need to expand to mobile. And they're thinking, the European Union has cracked this open for us. This is a huge opportunity for us. Nintendo would turbocharge this. So of course Nintendo was a target for them, But obviously, like Phil says, it's a bad idea, and it was never going to happen. So what's the next best thing to Nintendo when you're looking for those nostalgic franchises to make high quality mobile games? It's probably ABK, and it's probably companies like Capcom, Square Enix, and Sega, and stuff like that have these legacy IPs that could be converted to high quality console games that could be exclusive to mobile, Xbox, Windows via the Xbox ecosystem. So yeah, I mean, of course they were considering Nintendo. It would have been negligent to have not done so, especially if you're gearing up to spend $70 billion, man. So yeah, I don't see why people freaked out about Phil saying that Nintendo was a good buy. Obviously, for what their plans are with regards to mobile, Nintendo is obviously a good buy. Nintendo have pretty much come out and said they're not really interested in putting their games on mobile. I mean, why should Nintendo give Apple a 30% cut? But we're moving into a world where they won't have to give Apple a 30% cut, because presumably Microsoft's going to be like, we'll offer you a 10% cut or less even, Samsung already does this to some degree, because when you get a Samsung phone, there is a Galaxy App Store on Android, because Android is already technically open. And if you buy an Android phone, it comes with the Galaxy Store pre-installed, and the Galaxy Store does have a load of games on it. In fact, it has Pokemon Go, which has extra stuff in it if you download it from a Galaxy phone. It has all the Epic Games stuff, so your Rocket League and your Fortnite and all that kind of stuff. And they offer much more favorable terms than Apple does. The problem again is the dark patterns. Everyone's already sort of. I would wager a lot of people on Samsung don't even know that this store exists, because Google kind of buries it. Even Genshin Impact's on this store. I didn't even know. I'm like browsing it right now. Genshin Impact's on the store. PUBG Mobile. I wonder how much money Samsung is making from this. But
Probably
that's the next frontier.
A good amount, yeah. I mean, yeah, but people, but because Sony was out there in force talking about Call of Duty publicly, the deal was about PlayStation and COD, right? Because that's what the FTC built their whole case around and lost their case about. And like I mentioned before, nobody listened to Xbox 2 for the most part. I'm not going to say everybody, but I would imagine 95% of the people listening to this don't give a shit about mobile. The hardcore gamers don't care about mobile.
I don't care.
You don't care about mobile. I don't care about mobile. But we understand Microsoft business, and I like we said from the beginning when this deal was like, no, this deal is about mobile, and it's more about PC than it even is about console, right? It's just that it's like Blizzard and Activision does everything that Xbox was looking for. They're looking for mobile entry, they're looking for the PC stuff, and they're looking, and then the content for Xbox and Game Pass. It fits literally every single category that they could possibly want. But when you say this deal was done for mobile, people just look at you cross-eyed, like, it's not true, COD. It's like, no, it's mobile, right?
It's COD Mobile, for God's sake.
It's all that stuff, everything, and this is why the deal's so important. Because other emails came out about Phil saying, hey, if we don't grow Game Pass off console by X amount, we might exit the business by 2027. So a lot of fanboys have 2027 as this target about how Xbox is going to leave, even though we have their plans for how they're making a next-gen console. All these sort of things is they're about to leave in 2027, but here's all these plans that they're funding for next-gen and stuff. And there's a lot of stuff. And, look, the whole leak stuff was very unfortunate for them because their plans came out. And
it was unfortunate for whoever leaked it, because I doubt that.
Yeah, I doubt they still have a job. Some of it's not exciting, like the refresh consoles. A new controller with haptics, I think, is super cool. I don't know if you really haven't gotten to use the PlayStation 5 DualSense, have you, with the haptics?
No, I've used a PlayStation 5, but not in a game that has the haptics.
The haptics are the one thing I did want from that controller. I don't like the adaptive triggers. So they've taken the best thing about the controller and they're going to put it on the Xbox. And seeing the leak from Bethesda about what they're working on excites me greatly. So there's going to be a ton of games from them from 2024 to 2027 and whatever else is new. It's too early to really talk about their next gen plan, other than hey, they might go with ARM, they might not, and it's a cloud hybrid, and it's It's
I hate
like
that
basically
stuff.
Xbox's plan of, hey, we're everywhere. You know, some people are like, we're not making a console, or Xbox isn't making a console anymore, but clearly in their plans, you know, they literally say console is the foundation of our business, right?
Yeah.
So yes, they are making a console. What the console is going to be? Is it going to be multiple consoles? I don't know. Are they going to make a hybrid handheld? I mean, I don't know. At least not right now, because that's, you know, wasn't in scope. And yeah, so there's a whole bunch of stuff about all that, and I just couldn't believe it when I saw it, you know. But more tangible recently, Jez, was Phil was at TGS, and we talked about him going to Tango, and how Xbox has really thinks of that team as something special, and they want to grow it. They want to invest in Tango as they're hiring a lot of people. He was also visiting Kojima. Him, Sarah Bond, Aaron Greenberg. The marketing team's been there recently. I wonder if does that suggest the game's getting ready for some sort of debut? What are they talking about? Is Phil just seeing the progress, you know, of Kojima's games? Because he also has Death Stranding 2. I don't know how that's all gonna play out. Like, there's always like the Game Awards where, you know, he's obviously got a great relationship with Jeff Keighley. And last year they did reveal Death Stranding 2. Does this year, did they reveal Xbox's game? I don't know. But it's interesting that they always are like, hey, Kojima's meeting with Xbox. There is that Xbox game. But there is an interview here that I wanted to bring up, because Phil Spencer was quoted as saying, Xbox players can expect Japanese AAA exclusives in the future, Jez. In an interview,
AAA exclusives from.
So here's the quote. This is from TGS. Phil, in an interview with Game Watch, Phil Spencer was asked if Xbox would eventually get, quote, uniquely Japanese AAA games such as Lost Odyssey of Blue Dragon, instead of just getting Xbox versions of Japanese games also on PlayStation and Switch. When asked if it was difficult for Xbox to meet these expectations, Phil Spencer replied, quote, not at all. I think you can expect that. In fact, we released Hi-Fi Rush in January. It may not have been a major title like Blue Dragon, but it was certainly high quality. There are also Japanese game creators who are part of Microsoft Game Studios, and while there are titles we can't announce yet, we are currently developing new games in collaboration with Japanese companies. With further growth, including first-party and third-party, I believe you can look forward to the arrival of even more Japanese titles in the future. So, I mean, they've been talking about this for a while, about how they're working with Japanese creators and how they have like all these developers working on stuff. But this is like specifically, you know, painted towards first party, or, you know, at least like global publishing. And I mean, Philly is like, yeah, there's unannounced titles. So what do you take from that? Is he talking strictly about Tango? Because that's the only Japanese studio he owns. Or are they talking about any sort of deals they made with global publishing, or any exclusives they made just outside of that? Like, what's your takeaway from Phil's comments here?
Well, you have to kind of look right at the way Phil's promised things and the way he's delivered. Okay. Yes, there has been huge delays, and I'm sorry, it's the reality is COVID. COVID's to blame for a lot of this stuff. But Phil said, you know, we're going to deliver those AAA games you guys wanted, and the games have pretty much started coming. You know, Starfield, as much as a punching bag as it has been, it is in that vernacular, it is in that vein of the AAA experience, the grand AAA landmark, you know, attention-grabbing experiences that dominate Steam and gets, you know, hundreds of thousands of concurrent players on Steam, despite being on Xbox Game Pass, gets all the headlines, gets all the talk of the town for when it comes out and stuff like that. And you know, and now we've seen this roadmap too. It's like, bruh, like look at this roadmap. It's Doom, it's all these code names, and, you know, Dishonored 3 and all the kind of stuff that people have asked for. And it's taken time. It's taken time, but we are getting there. And that's Phil said that they get there, and they had got there. Phil also said they get Persona. They got Persona. Phil also said, you know, we'll get Yakuza. They got Yakuza and delivered on that front. Phil also, you know, Phil and Sarah Bond, they were like, yeah, we've heard you on Square Enix, and they're getting us Final Fantasy 14 Realm Reborn and
announced that they had Square announced that Octopath Traveler 2 is coming early next year as well.
Octopath Traveler 2 is coming as well, and not only that, but it's like they've, they haven't talked about the big ones. Everyone wants Final Fantasy VII Remake, Final Fantasy 16, and Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, which come on, that game just looks fucking fantastic.
I mean, do you think the Final Fantasy games will just come when all of them are out, or like at some? Because I sort of like.
They have to be ported, man. They have to be.
I know
ported.
they would have to be ported. I never thought
time.
For a second that Final Fantasy VII Remake would release on Xbox before Rebirth came out. So like I'm thinking
I think we're gonna get them. I think we're gonna get them now.
I think they'll like bundle them together, at some point. I don't know, because I also sort of feel like if the Switch is more powerful, the Switch 2, Square is gonna want to be on that console. 100%.
Most definitely.
And I know Sony. The thing is, I guess it all comes down to contracts. Did Sony lock down Final Fantasy VII Remake hard, where they can't put in anything else, or is there some wiggle room? Because as we saw from Square Enix and their new CEO, I saw some analysts talk about PS5 exclusivity is hurting Square Enix, and that it's worth it's worth it more for Square Enix to put it everywhere, because it's much better for all these companies to promote your game than one, and that it's like the money that they're getting from PlayStation isn't offsetting, what they could be getting from elsewhere. And people were like, that can't be true because the Xbox version is not going to sell that most. And he's like, you guys don't understand this. It doesn't matter if the Xbox version is not going to sell that much. It's about Xbox marketing it, because Xbox marketing it to people will actually probably sell more copies of it to PlayStation users.
Phil actually said, like previously, he said in an interview, he said, I'm paraphrasing again, but their analysis was that Outriders being on Game Pass helped sell it more on other platforms and delivered hype and word of mouth marketing. And user behavior has changed since the advent of Outriders, sure, but like we've talked about this on the show before. Like even the fact that it's not on PC, like you can talk about the fact that it's not on Xbox and Microsoft isn't putting their marketing dollars behind it or whatever. The fact that it's not on PC, it's not like on the Steam chart, rising up the Steam sales chart. It's not like being advertised on Steam, and PC oriented streamers, like they can't play the game, they can't promote the game to their audiences and stuff like that. Like, skip Xbox all you want. Skipping PC is wild. It's a recipe for disaster, and I'm hopefully Square Enix has started realizing, like, yeah, you know what, this is probably not working for us anymore. I could be completely off base, but there is so much stuff that Square Enix could bring across the pond to Xbox and stuff. But again, it's kind of like a lot of these games probably won't do that well because they haven't launched simultaneously across all the platforms. And it's like you say, like if they're marketing a game on PlayStation or PC, it'll also sell the game on it. So like they could bring Bravely Default to Xbox, but it's almost like it doesn't matter now unless they add it to Game Pass. And Triangle Strategy as well, which is supposedly pretty good. Deerfield Chronicle, they give us games that are just not that good. Like Deerfield Chronicle came to Xbox, and I put a lot of hours into that game. I was planning to review it, but I got to a point where I was so bored of the repetition that I just couldn't finish.
You even look at like what Xbox did with marketing of Persona. They made Persona 5 Royale feel like a new game. They put up billboards in Times Square, right? They're marketing heavily Persona 3 Reloaded.
They did go hard on that.
Right?
They could do that for Square Enix.
Well, that's the thing. Is like that's what he was saying. Is like
well.
You would have PlayStation and Xbox both marketing these games, and both their marketing is going to sell it to customers of either platform, and they're missing out on it only selling to one user base. Like, and it's no surprise that the new CEO is saying doing things differently. So, yeah, I mean, so I'd imagine like if the Switch 2 is powerful enough to run this stuff, they're going to want those games there too, and you're going to want to put it on Xbox, and you're going to want to put them on PC. So it's about putting games in more places so you can make more money rather than limiting it to just one singular place. So yeah, I'm not surprised that Square Enix is they've lost a lot of money in their stock valuation, and there's a new CEO that's going to have a completely different vision because it wasn't working. But the Xbox in Japan stuff, it's always a work in progress. It's gotten better. If you've told me 5 years ago that Persona would be day one on Xbox and the Yakuza games would be day one on Xbox, which even some of them come to Game Pass day one, I would have been like, impossible. But those former PlayStation exclusives are now, Xbox multi-platforms essentially. So and those are the games that people always said we need to come to Xbox, and they've done it. Now it's just like, okay, we need to get Square back, and that's going to take some time. And there's some other stuff that still misses, but they're doing exactly what they said they were going to do. It's taking time, but yeah, you're getting more and more and more of it. I think people were a little bit more disappointed with this year's TGS compared to last year's. I didn't think this one was that good, but they're clearly putting in the work. Like Phil's over there, getting stuff done. And and not that I particularly care too much about Persona or whatever, but it's a big problem when those games miss your platform, because it says something about your platform. If this developer here doesn't think we're worth putting their game on, it's not a good thing, right? So there's some of that stuff with the Japanese exclusives. I personally can't. I don't know if we'll get like a Blue Dragon or Lost Odyssey style, like huge JRPG from Xbox first party. I could see like some smaller stuff, but who knows? I mean, they have some unannounced games from Japanese creators, so I'd be super interested in seeing what comes out of all that. Now,
sorry, go on.
No, what were you saying?
I was just gonna say, like, I don't know if the team that made Lost Odyssey, like, I don't know if they're even on the same scale that would be required to make that kind of game now. I could be wrong. But,
no, they probably aren't.
Lost Odyssey was a great game. I think that the devs team that worked on that game mostly does mobile now, unless I'm going crazy. I don't know. Or do they even still exist? It's hard to miss.
I wasn't saying like, I was just saying like a big game like that, because Microsoft tried during the 360 gen. They funded some big Japanese exclusives from big Japanese creators, and they tried getting a lot of exclusives, and the 360 did better than the Xbox, the OG Xbox, but it didn't do too great, and they eventually just kind of abandoned that whole thing to the point where a lot of Japanese developers sort of abandoned the platform when the Xbox One launched as bad as it did, to the point where Phil needed to repair a lot of those relationships, which takes a lot of time, because it's one of those things where I don't think you need to be there in person, shaking hands, talking directly to them, and you have that wide gap of you're in Japan and the time difference, and you're over here in the US. It's like, so you need to get over there, and it's very difficult, so, but we've definitely seen the fruits of those labors. They've done exactly what they've said. So we'll see.
I mean, looking at this, man, like Hironobu Sakaguchi, who made the classic Final Fantasy games, also made Blue Dragon. He's still running Mistwalker. Mistwalker still exists, and they make mobile games called Terror Wars, which I've never heard of personally, which review fairly well. Now, I have no idea if they're the right kind of size to make a Lost Odyssey sequel or a Blue Dragon sequel, but man, it's such a lovely dream. It'd be such a nice story, like Phil, going there and being like, hey, like, we can put a co-developer with you guys, and you want to come back to these franchises and check them out again, and maybe work with us again. Like, it's a completely different time now to the 360 days, and we're exploring this kind of content for cloud and turn-based, and potentially extend this to our mobile platform and mobile store, make a stripped down version for Snapdragon processors or iOS or whatever. And they've got iOS expertise, so man, it'd be such it's such a lovely coming home story if they did do that. It's one to dream. It's one to dream.
It's one to dream.
I might write about that. One to dream.
Now, let me get back to the super chats, because I have a few of them. Supernova says, what chance for Phil to grab Koei Tecmo? Team Ninja deserves a AAA budget for new Ninja Gaiden.
Koei Tecmo is pretty badass.
Yeah, I don't know. Koei Tecmo, the publisher? Like, acquisitions are always kind of...
yeah, Koei Tecmo is kind of like... They're kind of... I do like Koei Tecmo, and like some of the stuff they've done recently has been really impressive. Like, they do seem like they've sort of... They're coming into their own and sort of, finding some real wins, recently, I kind of feel like. But they've always kind of been like Capcom at home.
Yeah.
Like, not to be a total dick about it, but they've always played second fiddle to Capcom, but they're kind of getting there, man. They're kind of getting to that kind of level, and they've put out some really great games recently. And I'm kind of irritated that Wild Hearts didn't get more love from EA. But that's par for the course for EA. I do wonder, like, if they partnered with Microsoft and put Wild Hearts through Game Pass, like, would that game have found its audience a little bit better? And like, I don't know, the ongoing engagement that those kind of games need. Because Monster Hunter World got so much free DLC, like so much free DLC. Like, constantly injecting the game with new monsters and new equipment, and then they were like, oh, by the way, here's an expansion that's basically the size of the base game with a new end game system. And Monster Hunter World content cycle was so amazing, and for Wild Hearts to have achieved that, they would have needed, like, ongoing marketing presence and a real push. And EA did fuck all, frankly, to try and grow that franchise. They did next to nothing, man. And I know EA's partnership program is not like a full blown, second party publishing thing with them. But I just can't help but feel like that game would have done better if it was under Xbox Game Pass with Microsoft behind it instead. But yeah, Koei Tecmo is fun to think about. That's a fun one.
Yeah. Sin Vendetta says the most common Starfield glitch I keep having is a bunch of NPCs from time to time wouldn't have their clothes on. It was just them in their underwear. Mainly seemed to happen to guards. I had that happen one time. Yeah. Everybody was suddenly naked, which is weird.
There's the sex edge you need.
Yeah.
To compete with the Baldur's Gate audience.
Fiber Frenzy says, did anyone check out Benjamin Green playing Legion Go on Twitch? That handheld looks dope with a layer of fentanyl on top. He shows it all, and it's awesome.
I'm kind of skeptical of the Legion Go, man.
Yeah.
Not gonna lie. Like, some of the innovations, well, I say innovations, they've basically just ripped off the Switch, haven't they? I love the fact that, like, they do have the Switch design where you can take off the joysticks and you can use one of them as a mouse, which is it's ingenious. Lenovo does some really good stuff, but like, it doesn't have a FreeSync display. Like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Not putting a FreeSync display in it. And it's because they've just repurposed their portrait displays from some of their unsold tablets, their unsold Android tablets, and slapped it in there, But if that keeps the cost down, and the costs are pretty impressive, and it does look great, and it does have a kickstand, which bugs me to no end that the ROG Ally doesn't have. But ROG Ally is just so sleek, man. It's so light, and the hardware's so nice. I just love this. I love this new category that's emerging, man. It's really made PC hardware like more interesting again. Like, because laptops are pretty boring, man. They're pretty boring. The laptop design is pretty much perfected now. Every laptop looks the same, and nobody really tries to do anything new with laptops. And PC tablets are just kind of a dead category. You got Surface, and that's basically it. Like, I wouldn't buy a tablet from a PC 2-in-1 tablet from anyone else. Although Lenovo again makes some pretty good 2-in-1s. But like, the PC handheld gaming category is really, really interesting. Hopefully I get to give Legion Go a go in the future, but I don't know.
Yeah, you love that. You love a lot of stuff. Wise Guy, he says, been playing Starfield and Forspoken on my 6080 GPD WinMax 2. While performance is admirable, 30 to 60 FPS 720p. It's definitely not on par with the Series X and PS5. I imagine iPhone 15 will perform similarly. I did see people. There was some articles again about like consoles dying because the iPhone can play games that you can hook it up to your TV and play and stuff. But that
you can do that with your bloody Samsung.
People were shocked at like, oh my god, Resident Evil 4 is going to be $60 on iPhone 15. Like, yeah, what'd you expect? They weren't going to sell this stuff for $5. Granted, this time it's actually universal. If you do buy it on iPhone, you actually get you could play it on your Mac and your iPads as well, which is good, and they're going to need that because why would anybody who plays it on a Switch or an Xbox or a PlayStation or their PC go spend $60 so they can play it on their phone? And like the mobile market has been said premium games are a no-go. Nobody for whatever reason, people spend $1,000 on their phones, but they won't spend any money on the things they buy on there. They're like, nope, not spending any money on apps. So
it's because they got no money left.
Yeah, maybe they got. So there's that. And I'm not saying it's not impressive because it is, but I just don't think there's a market for it. Yeah, no matter how Apple tries.
How about this, Rand?
What?
How about this, Rand? You buy Resident Evil on Xbox Store for iOS, and then you get it on Xbox and PC as well.
Oh, there you go. That'd be interesting.
That'd be way cooler, I think.
Hargeet says, a member for 22 months, hey, Jez, not definitive, but an M2 Mac runs Lies of P at 1440p 60 FPS. High settings. Series X is 1080p 60. I say that's good. And
it's not, because it's Mac. Bad.
Yeah, he also says, I believe a certain Rand promised that he would be on camera when he hits 100k subs. I see 100k, but no Rand on camera. Yeah, but I never said it would be literally the day it happened, though. I don't know why people assume that. Like, well, you hit 100k, so you could be on camera. I never said that was going to be that day. Please. It's all a process. Got to buy a whole bunch of stuff. I don't know. It's like, well, you're 100k now.
Doesn't alter the deal any further.
The deal never was. The second I hit it, I was going to be on camera.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
That is what it is. Fiber Frenzy says you guys should get nude. Oh no, it's Alex makes a fortune. Yeah, I don't know if anybody wants to see me take off my shirt.
What does oh no, it's Alex make a fortune off that?
I think he charges like $50. If he gets like $50 super chat, he takes off his shirt, and then like I think someone else can then pay $50 to have him put his shirt back on. You know, Alex's streams are always very funny, right? He'll watch other people's streams, like certain content creators, and kind of like make fun of them or critique the video, and people super chat, their thoughts about the video or whatever or what's going on, and it's always hilarious. But yeah, people throw money at Alex to, Alex is a good looking dude, so people love to see Alex with his shirt off and his nipples out. But I tell you what, nobody gonna be paying $50 for me to take my shirt off. Because
don't sell yourself short, bro.
I'm just saying, bro. I wouldn't want to take my shirt off because I wouldn't want to scar anybody for life. So yeah. Highlander, member for 12 months. You think if Jim Ryan was planning to retire, they'd have somebody ready to take over? I'm shocked that they did not have Herman take over. Virus says, any opinion on Oculus Quest 3? I'm thinking of buying it. Jazz, any opinion on Oculus Quest 3?
Man, I haven't actually watched it yet, but I saw a clip of the demo that Zuck showed off, and it was actually really impressive. Like, they've got inside-out tracking now and almost photorealistic avatars, which is far beyond the laughably bad, Nintendo DS style avatars they had before. So, like, it does seem like, Zuck's pushing, man. He's not giving up. And, you've got Xbox Game Pass coming there natively and stuff.
Yeah,
well, not natively,
and those Ray-Bans, those Ray-Bans with those cameras on them. You see that? Actually,
those too.
Understanding that if you're gonna have a camera in like glasses, the glasses need to look cool at least.
Yeah, I mean, there's also N-Real as well. Well, X-Real now, they've changed their name. So there's X-Real glasses which look similar to the Ray-Bans, which are not on board. They're kind of like they're kind of like a monitor, like augmented reality monitor, and you plug them into something. So you can plug them into your Asus ROG or your Lenovo Legion or even your Nintendo Switch, I think. And you get like a little game, little TV in your eyeballs. Ideal, really, for when your girlfriend steals the television.
Yeah.
But gaming hardware is hotting up, man, and I actually am interested in checking out that new quest from Zuck. I don't mind I'll give Zuck all my data. Zuck it all out of me, Zuck. What the fuck am I talking about?
I don't know. Jeremy says it's Xbox, not X-Cylinder. Damn it. Enigmatic Dream says, I want Harvestella on Xbox and Parasite Eve. Spartan661 says, what if Hideo Kojima is working on a game for the next generation of the Xbox console? Considering the leak from Xbox, do you think it's possible? So what, they announced that he's working with Kojima last year in 2022, but it doesn't come out for 6 or 7 years, when there's been kind of trailer footage that leaked of it last year, and he was working on it for Google. I don't buy that. I don't buy that at all. I think it comes out this generation.
Fair enough.
And Face says, Team Ninja is owned by Koei Tecmo, making Rise of the Ronin for Sony. Is Team Ninja owned? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, they are, yeah. Team Ninja's part of Koei Tecmo.
So there you go. You gotta find a different one than the duck, Jez.
Oh, what's wrong with the duck?
Just saying, I mean, nothing's wrong with the duck. We just gotta use it at the right times, right? Jesus. Let's talk about Jim Ryan. Good old Jim. I'm a sad boy because lying, crying, flying, Jim dance move, Saving Private Ryan is no longer going to be with us. He's retiring from PlayStation. This news came out of literally nowhere. Suddenly, he's leaving when PlayStation's at the top. Granted, he is older. He's like in his 60s, 63. He did say that one of the reasons he wanted to leave was basically he was kind of burnt out traveling because he has his home in the UK, but he offices in the US, and he's like sort of required to be on 3 continents throughout the year. So I think a lot, he says at least a lot of it was, the traveling, which understandable. He's also retirement age. So now it's like Sony's at a crossroads. What are you going to do? Right? Jim inherited a PlayStation at the top of their game, dominating from Sean Layden, and he basically steered them through the pandemic. They had a lot of stock problems. The stock problems are solved. They're at 40 some odd million consoles sold. He took the brunt of raising prices of their games, raising prices of their consoles during the generation. Talking about we believe in generations, having people believe that they weren't going to do cross-gen, right? He's not as charismatic or as well-spoken as previous Sony execs, Andrew House or Jack Tretton or Sean Layden. So immediately people are like, I don't like this guy. Some of his decisions I don't agree with. Giving dirty PC peasants my PlayStation exclusives, right? Crying about that and stuff. But there's no doubt that PlayStation's making a ton of money. I think they've made more money than they've ever had with him at the helm. But it's the future that is a little uncertain, because who do you hire next? Because as we've seen from the slides, Sony has a large investment of money into games as a service. And games as a service are hit and miss. Epic has the biggest games as a service out there, and they just literally laid off 900 people. Even though Tim Sweeney's on this whole campaign against Apple, whole campaign against Steam, selling all this money, might be responsible for losing a lot of this money and his crusades against it. But, is he cutting his bonuses? No, he's just laying off people because they're not making enough. Sega just announced that they were canceling Hyenas from Creative Assembly, which looked like it was finished and coming out soon. And nope, we're not even bothered going to release it. They even had mentioned previous months that Hyenas was it was positioned tough or something like that, and they canceled some other games that were unannounced, and that there were going to be layoffs at Creative Assembly. And you've seen sort of a lot of live service games recently shutter or close or announce that they aren't supporting it anymore. The market seems to be saturated, and here comes PlayStation with this whole lineup of games as a service about to launch, and you don't know how those games are going to be received critically, because we know Sony loves, like, one of their priorities is they want these games to, you know, rate high on Metacritic. We didn't get a Days Gone 2 because it wasn't, it's not that it didn't sell well, because it did, it's just that it wasn't like a critical hit. And, you know, so there's all this, plus there's the ABK situation. You know, Jim said a lot of ridiculous shit during the trial, during all the regulator stuff. And now that it looks like it's going through, a lot of people look at that and they're like, dude's bouncing before this takes effect, before Xbox actually owns ABK. He's bouncing out of there. He's also bouncing out of there before any of his games that he, you know, his games as a service initiative that he, you know, spearheaded, quote unquote, are coming out. So he's like, he's leaving before all this stuff happens, because who knows how any of this stuff is going to happen. So you look at it and it's like, you have these titles from a lot of these developers that have been in the works for a while, and that's a lot of money to spend, and potentially some of these games could be DOA. So you look at it as like, whoever, you know, is the next head of PlayStation is going to have some choices to make. I don't think they'll... what a lot of PlayStation fans, at least from what I've seen, have this hope that whoever takes over PlayStation next is going to rescind the games as a service mandate, and that 60% of the money that they're spending building those games will now go back into building the single-player cinematic AAA games that Sony's known for. But then you talk about the unsustainability of that, which Sean Layden talked about, who, you know, had that battle with Sean, or had the battle with Jim and lost. Sean had went on to say that he thinks the AAA business is unsustainable. He wanted shorter games with smaller budgets. But as we've seen from some of the court documents, you know, Last of Us 2 was over $200 million. Horizon Forbidden West was over $200 million. The games are actually taking longer to make, and they're costing more money. And Sony's in a business where the investors want infinite growth. You can't regress. We need more money. We need more money. And you look at like PlayStation Plus, constantly always at 48 million. Can't get over that hump. Sometimes it's up, sometimes it's down, right? They even add the different tiers to the service to compete with Game Pass, but subscribers didn't really move either way. And now they're actually raising prices and no longer reporting about it, because I guess they decided, well, we can't grow subscribers, so we're going to try to get revenue. So they're trying to pull revenue out of it because stockholders demand growth. And you're going to go after games as a service, because if you can just get one or two B hits, you're going to hit that growth, because you're not all like your single player games. They're going to cost so much, but you're essentially selling to the same audience. So what do you have to do? You have to raise the cost of a game. You either got to find a different avenue of revenue, which is PC, but you don't want to do day one on PC, which would really inflate your revenue because you think that's going to neuter PlayStation 5 sales. So you're at this kind of sticking point where it's like, we still want to do single player because that's what we're known for, but also we want to make more money. And we see how much Fortnite's making, and Warzone's making, and Apex is making, and FIFA Ultimate Team and Madden, because we run the store. We want our own versions of that and our own games. We want to pull in those types of experiences. But can they? I mean, we've seen with Factions, Bungie says it's not good enough. Bungie maybe even said that the game from Deviation Studios, the people who were working on, you know, Call of Duty Treyarch games, whether that game was canceled, there was a whole bunch of layoffs there because they were making a PlayStation game. Doesn't seem like it anymore. Did Bungie say that their game wasn't good enough? And even if you do come out with the game like Fair Game from Jade Raymond's Haven Studio, kind of looks like a generic Watch Dogs 2, heist game. Is that really going to excite people? Can you sell that at $70 in this market? Or does it have to be free? Does it also have to be day one on PC? Are people really going to care? Is it going to move people from the games that they already play on PlayStation and PC to play this? Are you just wasting a whole bunch of money? And eventually all this is going to implode down the road because you're just entering a market way too late when the market's already completely filled. There's a lot of question marks with this, with his thing, and he's leaving before any of it can get answered. He's leaving before Microsoft takes control of ABK and really maybe starts to assert its dominance, maybe starts really growing Game Pass at a level that PlayStation might have to compete with, or Xbox really starts to increase its revenue and can invest further and do bigger deals with other companies that PlayStation has normally done. So they're at this crossroads of like, okay, what are we doing? Who's the next person? What's the next vision for PlayStation? I don't know. What do you think, Jez?
I mean, it was kind of like the timing of the departure was interesting. You know, he's leaving while it's on top. And I think like some of the things you were saying about like the unanswered questions about games as a service and stuff like that. And I think like, am I going crazy, Rand? Maybe you mentioned this while you were talking actually, but was it Jim Ryan who recently said in an interview or something like to reassuratively that third-person action games would always be a part of what they do? Or
Yeah.
like
He said that there was like a interview with Fidelity. Yeah.
Yeah. So like they are existentially aware of the sort of the upheaval that they're sort of creating by trying to pivot their studios to games as a service, and the whole thing with factions and Destiny and Bungie coming in, Bungie trying to tell people how to operate a games as a service, which I've been on the record of saying I think is crazy because I don't think Bungie's that great at it, to be honest. So there is a storm coming for PlayStation and the storm coming for Xbox, and there's I think Nintendo will be fine doing their thing because Nintendo's sort of like Nintendo's Nintendo, and it's like, bruh, it's like Nintendo is an entity unto itself. They are the Disney of gaming. They are, they're screwed with the Wii U, but like I think they've kind of realized like as long as we stick to this formula, we'll be okay. Regardless of what happens with mobile, what happens with the metaverse, and all this other bullshit. I think Nintendo will be okay as long as they offer the traditional Nintendo experience, and I think that's fine. But this in terms of like Sony being a publicly traded company and trying to find growth, basically trying to get blood out of a stone, that is their concern right now. They've got the console market on lock, and it certainly seems like
they got Europe. They got Europe on lock because of him. That's that's another thing.
Yeah, they got Europe on lock, but they've got pretty much the entire console business on lock. Xbox has its holdouts. Us and a bunch of people in America still like Xbox. Xbox is there's a bunch of markets where Xbox does really well. Mexico and Brazil particularly, and the UK's okay, I guess, but they've been decimated in the UK as well recently. PlayStation's completely dominated them in the UK. With some of their PlayStation's had some really strong sales in the UK the last 6 months, offering $50 off. Brits love $50 off, and I think it's paid off really well for eating into Xbox's market share in the UK. But they've got America, which is obviously the biggest, most important, lucrative market. And Xbox kind of realized like they can't find any more growth from the console industry, and they might even be losing share to Sony at this point in the life. So they're looking elsewhere. They're looking at PC for growth. They're looking at mobile for growth. Looking at the models like Tencent, what Tencent's doing. Tencent don't make consoles. They don't give a crap about hardware. But they make crap tons of money on their games that they do, and one of the ways they do that is through service-driven games. Now, if you are Sony, and imagine a universe where a universe where Xbox is dead, and Sony has the entire market of Xbox today, and Sony is completely dominant. Nintendo's doing its own thing, and Sony's like huge and can't possibly extract any more money out of its user base. That's kind of the situation they're in now. What do you do to get more growth? You kind of have to look to PC. You kind of have to look to mobile. And that's kind of risky. If you are starting to put your games day and date on PC, that could sort of disrupt and sort of create a situation where Xbox could sneak in and maybe take some of that console market share back. Mobile's hard as well. It's hard to do. It's very competitive. You have to give Apple and Google a bunch of your money unless you build your own store. And to build your own store, you kind of need that IP. Microsoft has just bought a shitload of mobile IP. Sony doesn't really have any mobile IP that I can think of. Do they have anything on mobile? Sony?
I think they have a really successful mobile game, but I don't remember the name of it. And I did say like Jim was 63, but apparently he's 53. I looked on Google, and some places say he's 63, some places say he's 53. So I don't know his age. I just wanted to
Fair enough.
make that mention.
But there are a lot. Sony's doing great in the console industry, and what Sony's looking to now as a tech company, a publicly traded tech and entertainment company, is where's the next decade of growth coming from? And that seems to be the question that Jim Ryan doesn't want to answer.
Well, he doesn't have to answer it now.
Well, he doesn't have to answer it now, and maybe one of the reasons why he stepped down was because it's like, I don't know an answer for this. And historically speaking, he's not really been the kind of guy who has been. Some of these markets don't come naturally to him, I presume. Looking at the guy's history, is all about traditional console stuff. And there's nothing wrong with that. Obviously, it's a great. He's been great for PlayStation and really delivering, runaway growth for PlayStation in the console business. But now we're moving towards uncharted waters, I suppose you could call it, uncharted waters, and there's a lot of difficulty on the horizon for all the traditional console players, and finding that next era of growth. I don't know. I wouldn't know either, how to do that for Sony without carbon copying Xbox's strategy. And I don't think they can necessarily, like, they can't really copy the full-blown strategy, because it's not like they can just, go and buy an ABK. Like, where do they raise the capital to do that? So maybe some of that stuff's going to have to come from the innovation side. And Sony has been trying to innovate. They've been doing their PSVR, which arguably is probably one of the best VR experiences you can get, but it still just doesn't have the kind of ecosystem that Meta is putting together. I can plug my Meta Quest into a PC and play. I don't know if you can do this with the PlayStation VR. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think you can plug. Can you plug PSVR into a PC and play Steam games?
No,
I don't think you can.
At least not yet.
Yeah, so
no.
Yeah, I mean, you can do that with the Meta Quest. Like, I can plug my Meta Quest 2 into my PC using the high-speed HDMI cable and the USB cable, whatever it is, or is it Thunderbolt? I can't remember, but I've done it. It was a long time ago. I don't like VR, but you can do that, and there's an ecosystem there that early adoption hardware kind of needs to have. Sony's analytically speaking, Sony's in this sort of rock and a hard place kind of situation where it's like, where do we find the next decade of growth? They've got console on lock. Even if they crush Xbox to dust and take Xbox's entire market share, they still need to look at the next decade of growth. They can't just sit there and just be like, okay, we've got the entire console market now. We've killed Nintendo. We've killed Xbox. That's not how it works. What Microsoft is constantly talking about is reaching people who are beyond console, because console seems to be fixed at about 300 million players. For whatever reason, I don't know why, can't seem to get more than 300,000 gamers in console. I don't know why that is. Why is that, Rand?
Why is what? 300,000 what?
300 million, sorry. Why can't we get more than 300 million console gamers?
I don't know. That's what they always say. Like, the console market is basically 250 million people. People leave and then new people join, but it's that number. I don't know. You and the duck.
I don't know. What's next, bro? What's next
is Patreon questions.
We
got some Patreon questions. So if you guys are enjoying the show, make sure you hit the like button, and please subscribe if you haven't already. And let's get through these, Jez, because I do have somewhere I have to go after the show. So we're on a time schedule. I like to keep these under 4 hours.
Man, Rand's got a date, guys.
No, I don't have a date. I have an appointment.
Rand's going on a date.
I wish.
He's going on a date. Who you going on a date with, bro?
Don't worry, bro. Don't worry. Sith Lord says, how about that Connor Bernard debut last night? Yeah, he did well. 2 assists for the Blackhawks. Hopefully he's the next big thing. Alana Grogu says, do you think Big Jimbo resigned because of all the Jim snitching, bitching, crying, lying, Ryan jokes the Xbox community made? Loved the podcast last week with guest Rand. I enjoyed the variety, but glad to have you back, Jez.
Yeah, thanks.
It's always good to have Jez back. I mean, I like talking to Colt and Cog. They're my boys. But man, I really, really wish you were here last week because you would have seen that stuff. We probably would have had an emergency podcast on that Tuesday, you know?
Yeah,
because of all the stuff. But you deserved your vacation, and I know you really enjoyed it. But yeah,
it was amazing.
You know, the show.
I don't. Sorry, go on.
I was saying the show is just me and Jez. But you know, sometimes here and there we bring friends on, right?
Yeah. And we're gonna next month, in fact, we're gonna try and do 2 guest shows for XB2 plus 1, and we're also gonna try and do an extra Xbox 2 Ultimate community show because we kind of missed some this past month because I was traveling. So yeah, we're gonna rock a lot of extra content through October. And by the way, Rand, by the way, the 13th of October is a Friday in 2 weeks.
Okay.
And that's also my birthday.
Oh, is
my
it?
Birthday. I think that's the first time it's been my birthday on the podcast. Interesting.
Very interesting.
Do you think Jimbo resigned because of all the Jim snitching, bitching, crying, lying, Ryan jokes?
No.
Nah.
He says love the podcast. Yeah. I don't.
He resigned because he said in an interview that he was just sick of the travel.
Yeah.
I kind of appreciate that because I hate traveling, Rand. I hate it. I hate traveling. I hate flying. I hate like the trains and all the packing and all the unpacking and all that kind of stuff. I hate it, and I don't do it that often. I do it like maybe a few times a year. We're traveling between England and Germany, you know, or like going to events and stuff like that. I absolutely hate it. And if you're Jim Ryan and you live in, you know, Europe, I presume he lives in the UK because the dude's British, right?
Yeah, he says he lives, but he's basically in the US because that's where the offices are.
Yeah, so it's like I completely appreciate that, and it's something I hear often. You know, I think like wasn't it Rod Ferguson? I think I don't know if I think this is public. Maybe it isn't. Maybe I just heard this. I don't know. Either Rod Ferguson said this in an interview or I heard it on the grapevine. But I think I heard that one of the reasons Rod Ferguson moved to Blizzard was because of the travel involved when he was working at the Coalition.
Yeah.
And he preferred the, you know, the locality of Blizzard, you know, and not having to travel to Canada all the time or something. Yeah, I can't remember if that's official or it's just something that I heard. But anyway, yeah. Jim Ryan, his comments will.
I mean, there's a lot of, you know, people are talking about why it happened now, why it happened like literally a week after the CMA preliminary approved the deal. Like suddenly they preliminary approved the deal, which by the way, keep in mind that the Xbox Activision deal, I think CMA has set the deal. They have to decide by the 6th, so that's next week. But then the FTC is still going ahead with their administrative thing in December, but that won't matter because if the CMA approves this on Friday or by Friday, then I think Xbox closes the deal on the following Monday, and it's done. So good luck, FTC. They keep on trying. That's the update for ABK. It might be over next week. So, yeah. You know, Jim, you know, people are like, oh, he didn't leave a successor. Does that mean this was out of the blue? Like they didn't have anybody, you know, because it's like I think it's like the person taking over is also doing like dual duty for a while until they find someone. Is like, was this sudden spur of the moment and unplanned? So a lot of people are speculating about the reasons. So, but at least the reason he gave was like the travel and stuff. So. Gucci Cheese says, okay, simple question this week. Team Godzilla or Team Kong and why? Godzilla, because he's just cooler and he's got cooler powers.
Yeah, I'm
me,
totally Godzilla, man.
Yeah,
Like
Team Godzilla all the way.
King Kong's like, bro, it's just a monkey, man.
Billy the Brewer says, based solely on your video game prowess, how long do you believe you could last in a zombie apocalypse? Walking zombies, not running zombies, because we all know we're screwed with running zombies. I'd be probably dead the first day. I live in a fairly, big town by a huge city, and if there are zombies everywhere, I'd probably be dead that day. I ain't outrunning a zombie, I tell you that much. At least not now.
It depends for me. Like, if I'm in Germany, like, because live in the middle of nowhere down here, like, might be all right. We just hop in the car and head into the countryside. But then you might end up in the sort of, Night of the Living Dead situation where you're just sort of surrounded in this field, in this house. I don't know. I think I'd be dead because I'm so unfit. I'm just unfit, man. I'm walking around Iceland. I was exhausted all the time, and even like the remotest little bit of hiking we did, I was just like, Jesus, I really need to fix my fitness. So like, if you comes to like running away from zombies, like, yeah, even if they're walking zombies, you don't want to get anywhere near them, right? Yeah. I just die from being a fat guy.
If it was running zombies, for sure, you'd be dead immediately.
But I do have a shitload of tins of beans.
You could survive it, yeah.
I could just hide in the basement. I could barricade myself, and because I'm overweight, I would starve much slower than the zombies, presumably. Because a lot of zombies would probably starve after a bit. Like, 28 days later, they starve, right?
Yeah.
Omen. It's an interesting question.
It says, do you think people are overanalyzing Jim's departure? To me, I see a man who has enough money to retire somewhat close to retirement age. I think so. But I think it's a sudden...
Yeah, I think they're overanalyzing.
I think it's a sudden departure. And people always try to find meaning in that stuff, right? People, like I mentioned just previously, CMA looks like they're going to approve the deal, and the Activision deal is going to go through, and then suddenly the week later, Jim's leaving. People tie things together that may not actually be related simply because humans like to see patterns in life with things, and some things just, they're just not connected. But to some people, they see that and they're like, oh, Jim's retiring because of the ABK deal, because he lost. He wasn't able to block it. That's just how people are. And, people just want to talk about and speculate about it. It's fun to talk about, like, what's next for PlayStation and their business. You're at the top, but you have this really, games as a service model coming. Is it going to be a success? And nobody really knows. And the guy who spearheaded it is now gone before any of their games come out. So it's like, he's getting out of Dodge. Does he know? People like talk about that and like, well, maybe he knows what's coming, and he's like, I'm getting out now instead of having to bear the brunt of all this. But whatever. Silas says, greeting Jez and Randall 100K. Which one of you would have an easier time with this transition? Jez becoming an avid reader, reads as much as Rand, or Rand becoming a raid-ready World of Warcraft player?
Oh man.
I would probably have an easier time playing WoW than Jez would be reading books.
Nah, I'm gonna tell you I'm gonna tell the truth right now.
Okay.
I actually have been a prolific reader in the past.
Oh, okay.
When I was a little kid, I used to demolish books, and sometimes, even now, I do occasionally read books. I'm actually currently reading. Well, actually, no. I'm doing an audiobook for this one. But I'm doing the Poetic Eddas, and Edda. I pronounced that wrong. Poetic Edda. You know what that is, Rand?
No, I do not. No? I don't.
It's the epic poem by which our evidence for the Nordic Odin Thor religion comes from. I started reading that because I was going to Iceland. I personally think I'd find it easier to become a reader than Rand becoming a raid-ready WoW player. I don't think Rand has it in him to play WoW. I don't think he's got the skill, the tenacity.
Oh.
And again, he only plays trending games. So WoW's 18 years old, 19 years old. It's too old for Rand.
Fair enough. Sarah11 Kevin, with Xbox getting so much content, I now care less about games being exclusive and more about how I consume them. I prefer Xbox because of Game Pass value, content, controller, and ability to play in many different methods. So as a parting gift to Jim, Line, Flying, ABK crying, MS pushing me into retiring, Ryan, what if Xbox brought their games to PlayStation, say, after 6 months, just like how PS handles PC games, and similar to movie theaters, make additional money to fund more content and Game Pass value for Xbox users, and highlight if you want superior value in day one, there's an option for PS users, Xbox. Although PlayStation fans may groan as being second-class gamers, never happened, but thoughts? Well, never happened, so, I mean, I don't even know if there's any reason to certainly like discuss this. At that point, Microsoft is just a third-party publisher, right? And you might as well go all in. I don't know. Like I think they've talked about this, or maybe there's been quotes about it, about putting games on other platforms. It's just, it devalues your own to a certain extent. Like if this game was, if Elder Scrolls was on Xbox and also on PlayStation, they feel like it's worth more to them to be it on Xbox. Because let's be honest, like God of War Ragnarok, if it was also on Xbox and Switch, would make more money. But it's worth more to Sony for it to not be able to sell as much, so the people, get locked into the PlayStation ecosystem, right? Because if you put your game everywhere, you're going to make more money. If Nintendo put Zelda everywhere, like on PlayStation and Xbox, it would certainly sell more. But it's worth it more to Nintendo for it not to be. In the same way, like Xbox with all this stuff, yeah. It's worth it more to Xbox for those games to not be on PlayStation than it is, to sell as much as possible. I don't know. Gaming Forte. We learned from the leaked documents that Xbox releasing 2 digital consoles in 2025 for the Series X and S. That was 2024. But if this happens, Xbox will be 100% digital moving forward. Do you think this is true, or one of the things Phil mentioned could have changed in his tweet about the leaks? Congrats on the 100K, Rand. Thank you, Forte. Yeah, Jez, there was so both those consoles are digital, and it was mentioned in the slide that the previous consoles would be discontinued, so essentially there'd be only 2 all-digital consoles on the marketplace for Xbox, and you couldn't buy one with the disc drive, so people were really upset about this. But I think Xbox could do something like a detachable disc drive for people that want it.
Yeah, so like we live in a day and age where the games basically don't run from the disc anyway. The disc is just a license. You need the day one patch, and you need always online and all that kind of stuff. So like if we are moving towards this sort of this future where you basically just, the physicality of the game is just a license, Microsoft could easily do an external disc drive. Maybe you wouldn't even, if it's just a license, maybe you wouldn't even need a Blu-ray. You could do it with a DVD, for God's sake. Maybe you wouldn't even need a DVD. You could have a USB stick with the license on it. But I think like the market is spoken at the end of the day. The market is literally spoken, and the market says, we all say we don't care about discs. I haven't bought discs since the 360 era. Like I went all digital the second Xbox offered me a way to be even lazier. I switched to digital, and I started buying digital in the 360 era. Xbox was one of the first companies to really start offering that. And I don't know if it's because I'd been on Steam already, and I'd already gone through this mentality with Half-Life 2. I remember kids at school, man, talking about Half-Life 2 having Steam baked into it. It's like, oh man, you got to install this Steam thing if you want to play Half-Life 2. And I remember people complaining about it back then, DRM and all that kind of stuff. And people instantaneously got over it. And PC gaming hasn't had physical discs since forever. I remember doing a clean out in my room, and I remember finding my Manhunt for PC on disc. I was like, holy shit, an Unreal Tournament 2004 on disc, an Unreal Tournament 99 on disc, which had no DRM, and you could buy Unreal Tournament 99 from a shop, and go and install it on all of your mates' PCs from that one disc, because there was no DRM, there was no logins. It was a golden age, man. But of course, those times are well and truly behind us. I think Microsoft could do an external disk drive. I think the throughput of USB is more than fast enough for what discs are for these days, and we'll see.
Yeah, I think it makes sense. Like, anybody that wants it, you can get this disk drive for $50 or whatever it would be. But
I think that's a good compromise, because I think you still get the collector's editions and the collectors, and maybe discs will move towards a sort of, for an enthusiast kind of thing, where there'll be limited edition and
a lot of
limited run.
A lot of the collector's editions of games don't even come with the disc anymore. It's just a code.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's true. That's true.
Yeah. Good old Collingwood says, literary question: high fantasy or low fantasy? World changing or cottagecore? High fantasy is fantasy that takes place in a fictional world. Low fantasy is fantasy that takes place in the real world. World-changing or bit-stake story, or cottagecore cozy small-scale stories? And congrats on the 100K subs. Thank you.
That's an interesting question.
I prefer high fantasy. I mean, my favorite series is Wheel of Time, which is definitely high fantasy. But I also, I prefer high fantasy or grimdark. I really haven't read too many low fantasy novels. Like, I'm currently reading... I'm on book 7, Deadbeat on Dresden Files, which is, it's set in the real world. It's set in Chicago, but it's with wizards. Like, Dresden is a wizards, and there's a lot of some of that aspects. So I think that's low fantasy. But I haven't really read many cottagecore stories, cozy, small scale stuff. I prefer at least some bigger scale stuff. But yeah, right now, high fantasy, grimdark, epic fantasy. Science fiction, space opera science fiction, but also more character-driven science fiction is usually what I read, but not in horror and thriller. Usually, pretty much everything that's not like romance or nonfiction is essentially what I like. Tommy says, when is it time to worry about Hellblade 2?
Oh no, I get once.
Wait, you don't. Okay, answer. What do you like? High fantasy or low fantasy? World changing or cottagecore?
I like high fantasy.
Okay.
But it's kind of interesting, because World of Warcraft is sort of everyone in the World of Warcraft community complained that they wanted cottagecore back, right? Because all the last expansions were all apocalyptic, and Final Fantasy 14 has had this issue too, where it's like, God, we're so tired of every expansion being an apocalypse. Can we have a cottagecore expansion? It's kind of funny. I kind of like cottagecore that builds up to big stakes. I kind of think, but
yeah, I know there's stories like that, but yeah. Tommy says, when is it time to worry about Hellblade 2? It's been essentially radio silence on the game for about a year. Well, that's not true, because they just had they were just at E3. What was that? 3 months ago? 4 months ago? It feels like Xbox is backing away from this being their next big title. I love the first one, but I'm getting worried with how little we hear about it and what we've seen so far. Have a great weekend, guys, and welcome back, Jez. I mean, they just tweeted out at the studio, and when this whole studio gets together to play through the game. The thing is, this is kind of a marketing thing, Tommy. And if you, nowadays, you don't really hear about a game until it's about ready to release. We didn't hear about Starfield really until, they had the Direct, and then they had Starfield. Even Spider-Man 2 was here's Spider-Man 2, and there was nothing in Spider-Man 2 until essentially recently, right? And, it's just kind of the way it is now. So when Hellblade 2, when it gets closer to release, you'll see it. I mean, there could be a developer direct early next year with Hellblade 2 stuff, and then they could set the date, and then really drive home that the game's coming. The fact that we haven't, the fact that they're not talking about it now doesn't mean anything, because it's about Starfield and it's about Forza Motorsport, and after Forza Motorsport, it'll be about whatever is next. That's just how it seems like marketing's done now. You announce the game, and then you go away, and then when the game gets close to release, you start talking about it a lot. Christopher Marlowe says, Randall Delinquent smashing that glass ceiling with the pumpkin in his hand. Grats on 100K. Will you show us your 100K YouTube plaque on webcam when you get it? Yeah, definitely. If I have the plaque and then we're on camera, I'll definitely I'll probably obviously post it on Twitter, but definitely. Tricks are for Trey. Hope you guys are having a great day. Welcome back, Jez. I'm hoping with COD coming home that Microsoft doesn't continue popping out COD every year, lest the teams want to. Your thoughts? I mean, they're going to have to do what's best for COD and best for the teams. If the teams can do it every 3 years, so they don't have to miss a year, that's what they'll do. But if the teams are telling them that it's unsustainable and the quality is going to suffer, then, they're going to have it every other year. But it's a lot of revenue to give up, especially on a thing where you're paying $70 billion for it. And we know that Activision wanted to go every other year, and this year we're, instead of getting an expansion to Modern Warfare 2, we're getting a whole new game. So we'll find out eventually. This is one of the things, like Jess says about transparency, that whenever the deal goes through and there's a round table, do they want to address that question, Jez, about the future of Call of Duty? Like, hey, we plan on having Call of Duty every other year, or we plan on keeping it the same, or we plan on bringing more developers, I don't know the answer to that. We'll find out. Yep. Save Scum Goblin. First off, congrats, Rand, an amazing milestone, and welcome back, Jez. With disappointing showing from Square Enix at TGS solely regarding Xbox, I wanted to ask, is there really any hope going forward for Final Fantasy brand coming back to the platform? I've been holding out for years for FS7 Remake, and not even seeing the Pixar remaster come, I've lost all hope. I mean, I wasn't expecting it to come at TGS. Phil did say that the teams that Square Enix has to announce things at their own leisure, at their own timetable.
It'll take time, like they can't just do insta ports of all this kind of stuff. I kind of feel like Phil probably should have waited. I mean, it was kind of cool that they did that, but I kind of feel like they should have waited a little bit before they had something to show. If they'd say, for example, if Phil came on next year, and sort of like had a lot to talk about, like, here's this game and that game and all this sort of stuff coming with Pixar Remaster, Final Fantasy Remake, whatever. I think that would have been worth the wait. But I think now we're just going to have to wait to see what happens with regards to Pixar Remaster and all that kind of stuff.
I still think it'll come. I just don't think it'll be right away. And I don't think Sony it all depends on the contracts. I think it might come. Maybe it comes after the third game's out. So I don't know. I would say if you've waited all this time, you might as well play it on PlayStation. I don't know. Cubs for the win, says Rand. Congrats on the milestone. After ABK closes, in your opinion, who is more likely a target acquisition, Sega or Square? Thanks again, gentlemen. I think Sega, out of those two, I think is more likely, unless Jez disagrees.
I think Sega's probably more likely. You have to think about like the mobile kind of stuff, and Sega does have Football Manager, which is pretty big on mobile. Personally, I think Square has a lot of potential they could do. I mean, Square just released a new gacha game, which is, I thought it was pretty terrible, but I don't play gacha games. I don't know if you've seen this, Rand. I can't remember what it's called. It's called Final Fantasy VII Extra Crisis, or
I've seen
Crisis, something like that. I can't remember what it's called.
Yeah.
I downloaded it when I was in Iceland, at night, and I tried playing it, and it was so lame. But like, I don't play gacha games, but it was just brain dead. Like, you don't even have to think to play it, and and it's just these sort of like little clips of Final Fantasy VII, sort of interspliced with turn-based battles, which last like 20 seconds. Like, yeah, it's a mobile game, and that's what mobile games are like. But I just thought it was so terrible. But I don't know if these games are popular or not. But I do think there's obviously potential. Like, if they could basically do a Genshin Impact clone in the Final Fantasy universe, I kind of feel like that'd be massive. And I don't know why they haven't done that yet. It feels like low hanging fruit. But I don't know. It ultimately depends on what their roadmap looks like. What is on their roadmap.
Yeah, and who fits Xbox's goals more? Is it Sega or is it Square? It could be in 2019 it was Square, but in 2023 after ABK And Bethesda, maybe maybe Microsoft is looking for something else. They're not just going to acquire willy-nilly. All these things serve a purpose.
Yeah.
So it's like, which one of them matches our strategic interests? Could be Sega over Square. Yeah. Saucy Moz says, since the co-founder of Platinum Games is stepping down, do you guys see him starting a new studio and reviving Scalebound? But seriously, congrats on 100K Rand, and I hope Jez had an awesome trip. Welcome back. We talked about that a little bit earlier. I expect him to start a new studio with NetEase and maybe have Mikami on board from Tango. I think that's probably what's going to happen. I don't see them reviving Scalebound.
No, Scalebound is dead.
Yeah. 09 C-Mine says, congrats on 100K Rand. I know I asked this last week, but wanted Jez's opinion on it. With the ABK closing, what do you think Xbox's short and long-term goals are for ABK?
Xbox's
short-term
goal.
Yeah.
Short-term, nothing. I think like short-term, it'll be about infrastructure stuff, getting the Call of Duty games into Game Pass and that kind of thing, and really making their mark on it, I suppose.
Maybe back compatibility drop, right?
Back compatibility drop, that kind of thing. They're probably already working on that. I think Lulu pretty much hinted that they're working on integration already.
There was like even a job listing that was posted already, kind of, right? Like for like the Activision Xbox stuff. So yeah.
Yeah. So there's a lot. I suppose small things in the short term. Long term, I honestly have no idea. Personally, I think they're gonna let them run pretty much separately, I would think. For the most part. I think like Xbox will come in and be like, yeah, let's figure out World of Warcraft on Xbox consoles, for example, or let's figure out how we can port StarCraft 2 to Xbox with controller controls and that kind of thing. I don't think Xbox will interfere that much because I think Xbox realizes that Blizzard's a very particular kind of studio. But one of the things that I always liked that Phil said was that like we go to the teams and say, what is your dream game? Can we make that happen? I would love it if they would explore that with Blizzard, because there's a ton of stuff they can achieve with that IP.
Yeah,
if they let the creators run wild.
Well, you got to figure out what you're doing with COD. Are you doing it every year? Are you doing it every other year? Right?
Yeah.
What's Blizzard going to be doing? What are you going to be doing with Blizzard Battle.net? Are you going to move everybody there? Are you going to get rid of it? What's our strategy for mobile?
They better not touch Battle.net.
Like there's a lot of things they need to think through. What are we doing about management? Because I think a lot of upper management are going to take their payouts after a bit and leave. So you need to have a good management in place. So
true.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, do we let some of these other studios make other games? Like we'd let Toys for Bob make a Banjo game. There's a lot of things that it's not going to be easy, but there's a lot of things they need to do. Parker Petrov says, since Phil Spencer said in an interview that it's essential to continue updating Starfield's content, do you think that this means we will see Bethesda make a dedicated team for Starfield and for Elder Scrolls and Fallout as the new entries for these titles come out? As the current 15 years between each new entry pace can't continue. Congrats on 100K, Rand. I hope you enjoyed vacation, Jez. I do not see them making a dedicated team for Starfield. I think they probably work on Starfield content for the next year, like all of 2024. And then they eventually move over to Elder Scrolls. And then the modders will essentially be the ones making content for Starfield. That's kind of how I see it happening.
Yeah.
I don't know, Dad, you don't see them making a dedicated Steam for Starfield, right? It's like they're going to probably make content this year for Starfield 2024.
I think it depends, man.
And they'll move.
I think it depends. What they might do is they might like explore having a side team to do a lot of stuff that can, build on the game, because they have said it's got a longer term plan than some of the other games.
Yeah.
That they've put together. But I don't know, man. We'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah. Lee Sanders says, welcome back, Jazz. Hope you enjoyed the Hellblade preview. Read in a presenter voice. And the latest hit, 100K. Welcome to the stage, Rand. Rand, you now have to give an award award-winning acceptance speech. You get to thank 5 people and only 5 that have helped you along your journey. Off you pop. Well, let's see. I would have to thank my good friend Jez Corden for doing the show with me and for talking to me every single day. So I'd have to thank my friend Colt Eastwood, another person who's been with me, helping me, pushing me to be better. It makes my thumbnails. So he's another one. Have to thank Dealer Gaming because he helped a lot. When I told him like, hey, I want to change some of the things I do, he was like, you need to do this X, Y, and Z, blah 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 blah. So Dealer was very instrumental. Lord Cognito, just like his support has been great, and Tim Dog for pushing me to do it. You always need to push, and he was the one. So those would be the 5 people. And Luke Spook saying, welcome back, Jez. So question for the both of you, with the mass amount of info leaked, is there anything you wish had leaked that didn't? Personally, I would have loved to know what the licensed IP is. I mean, I would have loved to have seen a leak of what, Global Publishing is doing, all the games under Global Publishing, Because I feel like we know a lot of what first party is doing. What?
You want all those spoilers? You don't want any surprises?
No, I mean, he said what you wish leaked that hadn't,
Yeah, that's what I mean. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's what I mean. Wait, I'm confused now. You want everything to leak, so you've got no surprises. That's basically what you just said.
Look, the consoles leaking don't mean anything to me because the consoles aren't really exciting. You know what I mean? So,
okay.
Yeah. I don't know. I'd rather know what the,
I want to know what the handheld plans are, man.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, according to that, there are no handheld plans. It's not in scope for first party.
Yeah, but maybe they were like, it's not in scope for first party. Give us more money so we can put it in scope.
Yeah. And that's it. Because I gotta go. I got an appointment. And yeah. But I want to thank everybody for being here. 4-hour show, a lot to talk about. It's great having Jez back. Next week could be big. If the CMA approves it midweek, we might have to have an emergency podcast, or if they might have a roundtable at some point because it looks like the deal is going to go through. Who knows what else happens because a lot of crazy things are happening all the time lately. But with Jez back, maybe nothing happens. But we will be back next Friday for Xbox 2 podcast. We will be doing an Xbox Ultimate show on Tuesday for all you guys, and we'll be working on. Jez is going to follow up with Ybarra so we can get Ybarra on next month, and I'll hit up Maddie to get Maddie on. So we'll do Xbox 2+1s. Should be a lot of fun. I want to thank each and every one of you for, the 100K congrats. Means the world to me. And Jez, you got anything you want to say before we get out of here?
Nah, man. Just, thanks for all the well wishes and, people were saying nice things on the photographs. Some people said like they really like my photographs I was posting, like the quality of them. I really appreciate that because I do have photography as a little side hobby, so I appreciate that. Even more pictures up on my Instagram on instagram.com/Jez Corden. But yeah, it's good to be back. It's good to be back in the scene. We're gonna have a lot of podcast extra shows for the Patreon peeps next week.
Next week I could talk about Forza Motorsport because I'm playing it now. I'll talk about
I just downloaded it too, so I'll talk about it as well.
I'll talk about like Mortal Kombat 1 because I'm done. I've been playing that. But yeah, we will see you next week. Love you guys. Thank you. Hit the like button, subscribe, and have a great weekend. Keep it gaming, guys.
Rock and roll, baby.
Later.
Later.